everyone. Welcome back to Poppin In with Alexa and Molly. I'm Molly.
And I'm Alexa. This week we're just nervous little bunnies. I don't know why.
We actually just figured out, we just compared ourselves to Winnie the Pooh characters just to see who we would be. And I think you're Winnie the Pooh.
I am. Because again, I watched that, I've never seen the live Winnie the Pooh. Kind of scary the way he looks.
What do you mean there's a live?
There's a live
Do you mean
action.
The serial killer one?
Yeah. But I was watching him being like, oh, bother. Where did I put my blah, blah, blah?
He says that in that movie?
Yes. And I was just like, wow. that is me. If you watch me, because I work from home all day, I'm just like, oh, bother. Where's my phone?
But he says it as the killer. Because what's funny about
sorry. No, he's not a serial killer. It's the one with Ian...
Alexa, I've literally been asking over and over. It's the serial killer one, and you keep saying, yeah.
I thought you meant he kind of looks like a serial killer.
No,
it looks like a crack.
You've never heard of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey?
No, what?
Alexa, there's a horror movie about Winnie the Pooh, and it's the main character is Christopher Robin. He goes back to his hometown, and they're all British. It's a really shitty movie, obviously. And he goes back to his hometown, and Winnie the Pooh and what's his friend's name? I think it's
Tigger?
Well, I think it's Piglet. They're just men, but with the masks.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the live action Winnie the Pooh where he looks like a crackhead.
Okay, well, you should see Blood and Honey because it's insane.
Okay,
there's a second one. They made a sequel.
Blood and Honey. That sounds like a what is it, Rumi Kapoor book or whatever? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. No, but
yeah.
It's Milk and Honey or whatever.
Yeah. The poem's just oh, comma, bother.
But then killing people brutally. It's very
stab.
It's crazy, Alexa.
But it's the stab is on each line and it's a set of stairs. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going too far with this analogy.
I think the honey is Winnie the Pooh related. It's a play on that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's got a cult following. It's really crazy.
That is crazy.
Also just saw a teaser for the new Final Destination.
Oh, that's what you guys were talking about when I came in downstairs.
Can I explain to you? Because I now have a new fear for you.
Okay.
It's a new fear for me.
I need something to keep me up at night.
It is a perfect...
Add it to my list.
It's a perfect teaser. It's just it's so perfect for Final Destination. It's the new one. Didn't know they were making a new one.
I'll be honest, they maybe need to stop.
I think it's probably the 11th one or something. But the teaser is literally just a man who's he's a bartender, and he breaks a glass, and so there's glass shatters everywhere, and he's scooping it away, but he doesn't notice that a glass shard fell into the ice bucket, and so he scoops the ice with the shard into a cup, and that's just the teaser, and you're like, oh.
Okay, Molly, I'm here to tell you, so as listeners may know, I broke my special glass cup the other week, and I thought I got it all out of the sink, and I'm saying this quietly because Chris is right next door, but I kept doing dishes and being oh, here's a shard of glass in the thing.
Okay, but isn't that now a fear unlocked that it's a bartender could just be scooping ice
absolutely.
And now there's a shard in there?
Honestly, I feel there's upset. A lot of food places unlocked. I am very worried about rats drinking a nail in my Coke, after watching Friends.
I'm worried about a rat being in my drink or a food.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid fear. A lot of these places are gross.
The shard thing really bothered me, though.
That's
awful. It blended in with the ice.
Yeah. Glass is actually such a silent killer.
Glass is the silent killer.
Yeah, I want to know the stats on how many people die from just glass-related things.
I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm really upset.
Well, honestly, as I was lighting candles before we started this, the thing was flickering and being weird, and I thought, this is Final Destination. Yeah. I actually did.
But the thing with Final Destination is it has to be a minor detail in it. You know what I mean?
That would be a minor detail, me just being huh. And I bet, no, here's what would happen.
Yeah.
Is I would go to light the candle, I'd be why is the flame acting weird? And it'd be oh, because we have a gas leak. And then we all blow up and die.
But that's not it. It's there's a gas leak, but then you spilled water on the floor in the kitchen, and the water is slowly, I don't know. But
it's you have a gas leak, but you also fell in some kerosene earlier.
Well, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but there's a guy on TikTok who he does bits about he's a police officer investigating the death in a Final Destination, and he's they find out they're oh, so that's how she she died breaking her leg or whatever. And they're oh, that's how she died, and it's no, she died because the telephone wire fell, and it's this long drawn out thing.
I would love that, but you know how on CSI Miami they would do the thing where it's oh yes, a piece of glass in the throat, and then they would zoom into the throat, and I want that in Final Really?
I never watched stuff like that. I never watched CSI or NCIS.
We never watched NCIS. I think because my parents hated the girl with the bangs for whatever reason. which feels very, like, no offense to my parents, but very, like, boomer of them.
Yeah, that, but also Law and Order is what I meant to say.
Oh, yeah, we would watch CSI, Law and Order while eating dinner. Like, and I'm just sitting there, like, eating my little spaghetti pie that my dad would make, and it's just like, now
pie?
I know,
Isn't
actually...
that just lasagna?
No, it's very good. Well, not to you, but to anyone else, it's very good. I can't make it because it involves a lot of dairy, and Chris will die, but...
Well, it makes sense that you guys watch it at dinner, because I've always heard that, like, Law and Order is, like, a comfort show. Well, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And
shout out to our friend.
Shout out to our friend who watches it while she sleeps.
That was the funniest thing.
And I shared a bed with her at a bachelorette, and I had to fall asleep to Law and Order at, like, top volume.
The thing is, I would lose my mind. I cannot fall asleep listening to stuff. Like, I have to have, it has to be, like, white noise.
Well, I fall asleep watching shows, but it's, like, you know, Succession.
Yeah.
But, like, this was, like, she was murdered in the back. Like, I was waking up to, like, horrific things.
Yeah.
Like,
you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What happened? I was just sleeping.
Apparently it's a comfort show because it's, like, so repetitive that, like, you know what the formula of the episode is going to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually, it kind of reminds me of Doctor Who sometimes, where, like, I care more about the episodes that are, like, episodic, where it's, like, it's this one story within the episode. I do not care about the episodes where it's, like, this is about the characters that show up
like
in the
episode. Like a follow-up, yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I don't care about the through line. Just, like, give me some murders. Also, I'm curious, because I feel like you watch TV while you eat sometimes, and so do we. Do you think when you have kids, you'll watch TV during dinner?
I mean, that's how I was raised. Like, so
Same.
Interesting. Okay, so here's the thing, though. We didn't grow up, like, watching it on the couch, which is, I think, most people, or at least we kind of all do now.
Yeah.
Like, my family does now. Like, Matthew and I do now. And you guys do. I do now with you guys on Monday nights. But, like, I will say when I was growing up, like, we had a TV in our kitchen, because that was kind of the thing at that time.
Same.
Like, most people had TVs in their
Was
kitchens.
it in the corner?
It was, like, it was on the corner of, like, the island, I guess. And it was facing us at the table.
Oh, okay.
So we were at the table.
Yeah.
And so we would technically eat at the table, but we were watching, like, Friends.
Yeah. Which I think, like, I would do, too, because I wouldn't want my children to eat on my couch I mean, I barely should eat on my couch.
True.
But it also is, like, it feels like we did that because I think, like, it's kind of like the evolution of how we watch TV and stuff. Like, it's just like, yeah. Also, when I get home from work, it's like, okay, I really only have, like, 3 or 4 hours, part of which is going to be cooking. And then it's like, okay, then I have to shower or maybe exercise, and my kids have to do our homework. So then you really only have, like, an hour and a half to just, like, sit and watch your shows, probably. And it's like, yeah, we're going to watch them while we eat. I don't actually care what you did today. I care about what's happening on the next episode.
You could also, shift, like, you start at the table, have a little conversation, if it's, like, enough like, if it's obviously just 2 people, like, no, but, like, if it's, like, you have, like, multiple kids, and you're all at the table, and then you shift over to the couch.
I will say, when Chris and I first started living together, we would sit and, like, have dinner at the kitchen table.
Really?
Sometimes, like, actually every night, until eventually I was like, 1, I want to watch my shows, and 2, I was like, it's so silent. Like, I would play, like, dinner music, but it's so silent because we're eating. Like, we're not, it's hard to hold a conversation when you're eating.
Really? I was used to that with my family. Like, we talk and eat. And to the point where, like, that's why it takes so long to eat, because I'm, like, usually talking.
Yeah.
But the first time I had dinner with Matthew's family, I wasn't prepared. Like, they ate, and it was just dead silent while they ate, and then we talked after. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not used to that.
And as you've seen, like, Chris, who we have determined is Eeyore when he comes home from work, like, he just is so, like, quiet. Like, he's so silent. So then I was like, well, let's just watch our shows. Yeah. I want to do that.
Yeah. I'm all for that. And I do always eat. And I also save, this is a random thing, but we went to Cook's this weekend, I have leftovers from Cook's. I'm saving my Cook's leftovers for a really good episode of something.
Okay, because Chris always makes fun of me. Listeners, tell me if you guys do this too. But Molly and I are the same in that, like, even when we were at the theaters, we get our food and we wait until the movie starts. Like, I've seen both of us. And Chris was making fun of me because the other day, like, I was eating something. I went to, like, I put it on the fork, but then it, like, glitched or whatever, so we couldn't start it. So then I, like, put the fork down. I put the food down. He was like, really? Like, he was like, just eat it. Like, you had a fork right. And I was like, no, like, I'm saving it for literally, you hit play, the show is playing.
And I'm so weird that sometimes I save it. This is, like, very weird, but I sometimes save the food for, like, a good part of the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would do that, except one, I don't have that level of self-control, and two, like, if it's a movie I haven't seen, I just don't know when that will be, and then I'll have oh my god, sorry, I just knocked over the desk again, and then I would, like, just be thinking the whole time, like, wow, I hope a good part's coming because I'm gonna eat.
Well, I really noticed about myself when we were watching Batman Begins, and the first, like, 45 minutes are kind of boring, I'm gonna be honest, because it's him with, like, Ra's al Ghul, and, like, I don't care about that. And I didn't eat the entire time until we got to, like, Cillian Murphy. And then I was like, okay, I can eat now.
Yeah.
Like, there's something, what is wrong with me that I'm like that? Like, what's mentally, like, what is
Well,
that?
I do, like, almost the same thing. I don't know. Well, that's how my mom did. She was like, she would always be like, I am very excited to eat a good meal and, like, watch a good show.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like, it's pure entertainment from inside out. You know, my body is content, and
pure
so is my mind.
From inside out. If we were still naming our episodes, we would name it that.
Ooh, that would be good.
Wow.
Wow.
We should name something that. I don't know what.
Yeah. But I guess we should probably, like, get into the point of what we came here to talk about.
Things that we watch.
Also, we should say at the beginning, now that we're 10 minutes in, that we do have the timestamps in the description of every episode. So if you don't care about a topic, or you don't want spoilers, if you're in the middle of a show or whatever, you can look at the timestamps, you can hit the little fast forward button and skip to where you want to be.
And they'll also be posted on our Instagram story at Poppin In Podcast.
Follow us.
At Poppin In Podcast. I didn't know what you wanted me to say.
I don't know. I just started. Anyways, this week, okay, we
have so much to touch on that I'm actually, like, I feel like I have a lot to say about.
Yes. Okay, so if you guys haven't seen, it's a new show. I think it just came out last week, but
we wasted no time.
Yeah, it's called Adolescence.
Yeah, it's called Adolescence. It's on Netflix. It's a British show.
Yeah, and so the synopsis is when a 13-year-old boy is accused of the murder of a classmate, his family, therapist, and the detective in charge are all left asking what really happened.
And now, what's interesting about this show, so first of all, it's 4 episodes.
It's 4-hour-long
really
episodes.
Easy to get through. And also, so it's all shot in one take, which is wild.
It's incredible. Have you seen the, like, behind the scenes footage of them doing some of that? Because there's an episode, like, where they're in, like, the house, and it's like a small, like, British house, and it's literally like there's people on the stairs, and they're kind of just, like, passing the camera, and, like, so that way they can continue with the one continuous shot, like, while they're on the stairs. So it's like the stairs, the actor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what
crazy.
I would want to see the behind the scenes of is more like when they have to film something like episode 3, which was, and we'll get into it, but, like, it was all just, like, between 2 characters, essentially. Yeah. And I'm like, can you imagine how much, it was just dialogue. I'm like, how many takes did they have to? But
they must have really, really rehearsed it. And well, the thing about that, so that takes place, like we said, there's a 13-year-old boy. His name is Jamie, and it's played by Owen Cooper, and he's, like, not an actor. Like,
really?
They specifically were like, we don't want to get, like, some kid from, like, an acting school or whatever, or at least that's what I was, like, reading about. Like, he's just kind of like a random kid who was like, I'm gonna audition for this, and I think he's gonna be in the new what's the director of Saltburn?
Oh, I'm gonna talk about her too actually today. Jamie or Emerald Fennell.
It's like, it's him or one of the other characters, I actually can't remember, is going to be in the new Wuthering Heights. I can't remember which one.
We're talking about that today.
Yeah, so but no, like, he's just like a kid.
Because I think he should be nominated for an Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. But what's interesting about this show is, like, so it's obviously a crime drama, and it doesn't focus on, like, whether he did it or not. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not the question. You find out pretty early on that he did do it.
Yeah.
But what it's about is why he did it. And so it's kind of an interesting it's just a really interesting story.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, what they've been promoting the show as. It's not a whodunit, but a why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, like, so it's created by Stephen Graham and Jack Thorne, and Stephen Graham also plays the dad in the show. Mm-hmm. And basically, like, it's really getting into kind of this, like, childhood psyche having to do with, like, the what's his name? Andrew Tate. I also said Jason Tatum. I was like, that's different.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah. Andrew Tate, like, manosphere, like, hyper masculinity stuff that, like, kids are being exposed to online, and kind of how, like, it can mess them up. And so you see, it's interesting because Jamie's character is 13 years old, and it's such a weird time period, I think, in, like, like just like youth where it's like, okay, you look at him, I was remember like watching this actor and I'm like, oh, his arms are so tiny. Like he looks like a child.
He looks like a 9-year-old.
But he's 13, which is at the time when you start to kind of like have these like adult thoughts. And like when she's asking, the third episode is a like psychiatrist that sits down with him and she's asking like, what would you do with a girlfriend? Like, would you like touch each other's bits or whatever? And you're like, that's such a crazy question. But then you think about it, it's like at 13, like, yeah, people were starting to do that, but he looks like he's 9.
And I think they probably intentionally cast him too for that reason, because that's what's like kind of crazy is he is 13 and 13-year-olds can look so different depending on your age.
Especially 13-year-old boys.
Right. And that's why middle school's so weird because like, it's like you've either got like in 8th grade, you've got like 14-year-olds who can look like teenagers, and then at that point you could see like, okay, maybe sexual things would be going on, but like him, like he looks. And
but the thing is, it's not crazy because it's like he maybe doesn't look like it, but mentally he probably is.
He clearly was like mature enough to like stab somebody, right? So, but what I thought was interesting was like he kept. So I don't know. How much do we want to get into like the plot?
I guess we can like go over it because it's interesting. Each episode. It's not like each episode I think focuses on a different thing. Yes.
Yeah. So the first episode is him being arrested, and it's obviously like a very confusion like thing where and I thought it was interesting. I could tell, or maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like the people that were in it were like real, like it looked like everything was real.
Yeah. So it's actually like the first episode I think is really like hypnotizing because it actually starts out really kind of like the first minute or so seems kind of monotonous where it's just like the like police officer is talking about how his son kind of doesn't want to go to school that day or whatever, and then suddenly they are breaking down the door of this family's house, and like everyone in the family is like, and you realize it's like 6 a.m.
Yeah, they're not like the kid isn't even awake yet.
Yeah,
they're getting ready for work, for school.
They have guns pointed at him. They have
guns, and at first I was like, damn, like all of that for a 13-year-old. But then I was like, well, he did murder somebody. Yeah, but. And then they're trying to, I guess you're trying to get somebody in the moment, so you're making sure that they're where they are. Yeah. But I was kind of like, so they arrest him. He's so young that he pees his pants. Like, that's how you're just like, oh, he's like, he's a kid, you know?
And I think it also goes to show, so again, the actor, his name is Owen Cooper, how, like, phenomenal he is, because to clarify, what we later learn, it's in the first episode, this is not like a spoiler. Again, it's not a whodunit, it's a why. But he stabbed this girl, his classmate, 7 times, like murdered her in the middle of the night. But then you see he's like kind of crying. He's kind of like confused. Like you feel really bad for him.
You do. And if you're watching it like without the knowledge of like he actually did kill her and you're just watching it from the beginning, like you're like, oh my gosh, what are they doing to this 13-year-old kid? Like, he's sobbing. He's like asking for his dad. He's like, I didn't do it. And like, he's confused. Yeah. And because obviously, but I was gonna say they did all that with the guns. They didn't even handcuff him. What was the point of all that? Then?
I don't know. Maybe it was just having like again. Maybe it's like weird. He's a 13-year-old. I don't know.
Yeah, but they pointed gun. Can you imagine remember, being 13 and waking up to just like men busting in your room and pointing guns at you?
No, but I also can't imagine murdering someone.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think like you had asked us over the weekend, like, oh, would they have done that with like like this case with a 13-year-old, like busted into the house like this? And I was thinking about it, like, and I was reading some stuff too, and it's like, I think the lawyer says at one point, he's like, they have to have some extremely compelling evidence, and they do.
They do. So you find out that there's CCTV, video evidence of him stabbing the girl. He follows her, so it's not like a crime of passion. He like follows her,
right?
And it's funny because later on because I was like, how does he still say he's not guilty? But he says that the video could have been manipulated. You don't know if it's real. And that's where you get into all the AI
not even
stuff.
Like, he says that. It's like, so in the last episode, the family goes, someone like paints the word nonce on their car, which I looked up, and it basically is like a child predator. Yeah. And they have to go to like their version of Lowe's. It's like Wellington's or something. And the paint guy's like, oh, like he says to the dad, he's like, oh, I recognize you. Like, just so you know, like if you did a GoFundMe to get him a better lawyer, like videos can be altered, whatever. And it's just that kind of like conspiracy shit that people like get into on the internet.
But he says it to the therapist in the third episode. Yes, yeah. He says it to her. He's like, because I kept wondering why he's still saying he's not guilty when it's like there was video evidence. What are you talking about? And he says, he's like, the video could have been altered. We don't know. Like, whatever.
And so to get into, like, so again, it's 4 episodes. The first episode is them, like, kind of busting into the house, arresting the kid, and, like, the parents going to the police station. And the thing is that I think is really interesting about that episode, and the fact that it is, like, shot in one long shot, is they get into, like, the monotony of it, too, where they just have to keep asking. They're like, you know, do you want some cornflakes? Would you like some cornflakes? Can you pay attention here? And it feels, the thing is, it's like monotonous, but also like very chaotic.
Yeah, you know? It felt really real. That's why I thought that kid was definitely an actor, because I was like, or whatever, he's a very good actor, because he was just like, so you would just be that way in real life. Like, you would be so confused. You wouldn't be able to answer. You'd be like, what?
And to clarify, he's like an actor, but he's not like pulled from like a talent agency or a film school, I don't think.
Interesting.
Or like a acting school, you know, like how some of those like kids are.
And obviously the parents are super confused because they're, and this is, by the way, to preface it, it's a very seemingly like normal, nice family. Like they just seem like they're like a hardworking, the dad's a plumber.
Yeah.
They're like a normal family. He has like an older sister, and they all come to the police station. They're like, what is going on? Like, literally, what is happening? You have the wrong person. Why are you arresting our son?
Yeah.
And it's just very chaotic, and that's what is great about, I love when things are shot in one take, because you just really are like seeing it all in like real time, and it just feels so like intense that I don't think like multiple shots would give that same
it feels
feeling.
Very real. And I think it's interesting who they decide to focus on in that take, because in some like scenes there's multiple characters in the room, but like there's a scene where Jamie has to be strip searched, and you can hear Jamie out of frame like being strip searched, where the police officers are like, okay, can you lift up your penis, like we have to make sure there's no but the camera is on the dad. And I think that's
they're not
really
going to show Jamie.
Well, no, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's honestly better, because they're like his emotional response to it is so interesting. And throughout that episode, like, people have been really praising Stephen Graham, which when I listen to like reviews and stuff, like, it seems like people love him, but I'm like, I don't think I've recognized him.
I said the same thing. So he's so famous, I feel like. But, like, when I looked at, like, what he's been in, first of all, he was in, like, one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Don't remember him in that. Yeah. He was in Peaky Blinders. Don't remember him in that. No. Like, I was like, who is this man?
I think he's British fame, maybe.
Yeah. But he's incredible.
Yeah, he was really good. Also kind of hot. Like, for, like, I don't know, he was kind of like working man hot, you know?
So he's like the definition of what, like, a daddy is supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? But because I feel like people often say, like, oh, like, it's like Pedro Pascal or whatever, which, yes, but like he is like actually like a daddy, where it's like he looks like a dad, but it's like he is like, you know. Yeah. I think he will potentially win an Emmy for this show.
So it's interesting so I read a lot of reviews about this, and people are comparing it to, like, for Netflix, they're saying like it's this year's Baby Reindeer for Netflix, which I can kind of see, where it's just like it kind of dropped without like a lot of like not a lot of promotion, and everyone's like, whoa, and it's like touching on these kind of huge things. It's a little bit experimental. I could definitely see that.
That's so true. And I think so then the second episode focuses on the investigators going to the school and interviewing the kids, and that's kind of where you find out like sort of the motive maybe behind Jamie's killing.
And so I'm curious, so like they're going through the school, and like as they're going through, it's showing like the chaos of the school, and it kind of felt like, you know, obviously they're in a British school, so like some of the slang and stuff is different, but some of it I was like, I mean, it feels kind of accurate to like being in a high school, where it's just like all the teachers are like, please stop, like please pay attention, like,
and they're like I actually found it to be the most boring episode out of the 4. It was my least favorite. But it was interesting. I mean, it was still good. But
I think I am different on that, because I really loved that, and I thought the third episode was kind of like the like
really.
Most
I thought
the
third one was so intense.
I thought it was intense, but I think
it was repetitive though.
Yeah, and I think like I liked like the other 3 episodes because they're in different locations, but again, it's that one long shot, where like the third episode is still one long shot, but they're just in like basically that one room.
But that's the kind of thing that like really impresses me, is when like it kind of, you know what the third one reminded me of was the episode of the Menendez brothers, when it was like that one, because that was also a one take, where it was like she was interviewing him, or the lawyer was talking to Eric.
Oh yeah,
and it was like the whole scene, the whole episode was just that scene. It really reminded me of that, where he was just talking. But so the second episode they go into like the whole 80-20 thing, which is where
80% of women are only attracted to 20%, which I had never heard of. Like, I am not in, As you can imagine, I'm not like in the manosphere Andrew Tate stuff.
I will say a lot of this was kind of like not new to me, but I just was kind of like, oh, okay, like I don't know.
And
I didn't know that like, well, I don't mean like I don't know that boys know about Andrew Tate or care about Andrew Tate, but I guess I just wouldn't have thought that like a 13-year-old's motives to kill someone would be based on like Andrew Tate.
See, and I would, because I think it's interesting. It seems like a more not prominent issue in the UK, but like that they put more emphasis on it. Yeah. Where like I listen to like a lot of like weirdly like I listen to like the BBC News and stuff, or like I listen to the Guilty Feminist, and they talk about like a lot of crimes that are like hate acts towards women. Yeah. And so I don't know if it's more of a UK thing or more so like in the States we are not covering that.
And the whole point of the show is the dangers of kids being like exposed to this stuff because you know, with the internet and just like they all have access to it.
Yeah. So what's interesting is like this show, I think in the UK has like caused a little bit of like very quickly like people are like, we need to change some legislation. Mm-hmm. But like it's been a topic of discussion for a while where there's two schools of thought for like the reason why boys are maybe acting like this. One is that they don't have any male like figures, like they don't go to like the sports clubs anymore, they don't like their dads are always working, like they don't have like male teachers or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, we need to have more like sports clubs, or you know. The second school of thought, which I can't remember if it was Stephen Graham or what's his name, or Jack Thorne who said this, but this is kind of basically what it's about, is the second school of thought, where it's like you can come from a very nice, normal home, you can be raised well, but what you're seeing online can influence you. Like, that's the problem, is what you're exposed to online. Because I think it was Jack Thorne where he was like, you know, I have a very, like, similar upbringing to Jamie, but the difference is I had, like, Judy Blume, you know? Like, I didn't have the internet.
Well, and that's kind of the whole point, like, the whole, like, takeaway from the show, because in the last episode, the parents are, well, there's a lot that happens in the last episode, but at the end, the parents are just like talking about like their guilt for you know, this happening, because they thought they were doing everything right as parents. They're a good family, and like again in episode 3 we didn't go over this, but like it's about the therapist, I guess she's a therapist.
Yeah, I think she's
psychoanalyst or whatever, who comes in and she has been interviewing Jamie. She's done like several sessions with him, and this is like the last session. And she keeps asking him questions about like, again, like you were saying, like she keeps coming back to like male influences in his life, and so she's asking about his dad and what he sees means being a man, like what does being a man mean to him and stuff. And he gets like angry because he's like, like he doesn't know why she's asking or whatever, right? And it does seem kind of weird, but it's like, so she's asking about his dad, and he's just like, I think, you know, because some of the angle could be because this is all about like she'll talk to the judge and it might influence his sentencing and stuff, because he's currently in a mental health facility, right? That's where he's being held until the trial. And he is basically saying like, yeah, my dad doesn't go to the pub, he doesn't drink, he's not an alcoholic, he doesn't beat us, like he doesn't beat my mom.
She's like, he gets mad sometimes, so like a normal amount.
And you definitely see that in the last episode, but again, it's like because he's like dealing with what he's dealing with. His son is a murderer.
Well, it's interesting that they show him in the first episode where it's like he has like some, like the dad has some small outbursts, like when they're like, we want to strip search your son. He's like, no, don't do that. But for the most part, anybody would, right? He's like fairly calm and like even keel. And then in the last episode, you see like, this is after like Jamie's been arrested, like it's all in the news, and they vandalize his van, and it's his birthday also. Right. And
so it's like a huge...
Yeah. And he's like, you can tell like on the way to go, like they're going to like pick up paint or whatever. It's like, they're kind of reminiscing about like his dad as a kid and like these funny stories or whatever. And it's really heartwarming. And you're just like, yeah, he's just like kind of a normal dad. Like he's not... Yeah. Like he seems very loving. Like it seems like he loves his wife. His daughter comes in a new top and he's like, wow, you look really nice. You know?
And that's why, because in the first episode when Jamie gets arrested, he immediately asks for his dad. Because you have to have what is it called? Something adult. There's like a term for it where it's like the person, because obviously when he's being interviewed, he has to have an adult in the room with him. And he asks for his dad as opposed to his mom. And it's because he claims that his dad won't judge him or whatever, even though he might have like a little story at some point of like his dad maybe being ashamed of him because he's not into sports. Like he doesn't do any of that. He's not like quote unquote like a manly boy.
Which again is like those two camps where people are like, oh, they need to be into sports or whatever. Like they did that with Jamie. He just wasn't really interested.
Yeah. But and so the parents are kind of not reminiscing, but they're reflecting in the 4th episode just like about where it went wrong, because again, they're a normal family. Like how did he end up this way? And they realize like, you know, sure, like he came home from school and immediately went upstairs and would go into his room and just go on his like laptop and didn't like talk to them or whatever, but they're just like, at least he wasn't out on the streets and doing something bad, you know, like so, but they never abused him, but like just somewhere something went wrong. And it's just interesting because again, like you were saying, like that's just what goes to show like they can have a perfectly normal family, but it's like the influences of the internet just completely.
And it's like kind of scary to be a parent, and it's not like, it's interesting because I don't have any children, but I'm like, the thing is, it's like you don't
scared to have kids now.
I'm like, you don't want to cut your child off completely from the internet because then they're like, it's going to be really hard for them to live. But also like it's different than, you know, we I think are the first generation to really like grow up with the internet, like you and I, and the internet is different than it was when we were kids, you know, like it was like I was playing on AmericanGirl.com, and I will say, like, we were talking about this before, and I will say, like, you know, kids got in trouble for things. Like, I wasn't allowed to have, like, a MySpace or a Facebook because of all that fear. Or, like, I got in a lot of trouble because when I was in, like, 6th or 7th grade, I was on a chat room asking, like, how do I have a boyfriend? And, you know, my parents had watched, like, Dateline, and they're like, you're gonna get, like, kidnapped or whatever, which is fair. I was not out here reading, like, why should I hate women?
Right.
Like, why should I hate myself? You know what I mean?
I was on, like, Webkinz forums.
Yes. Whereas it's like, you know, the internet obviously has always been, like, a worldwide thing, but it's just, like, now become such, I think, even more treacherous place for, like, when you're 13, because, again, he looks like a child, but it's when you're starting to have a more adult mindset, like, you're thinking about things more, like, in an adult way, and it's really, like, informing you.
Did you ever go on Omegle?
Yes.
I used to, so I would never have dared to do that at, like, my house, but, like, at sleepovers, my friends and I, like, at other friends' houses, like, we would go on there, and I'm just, like, literally insane that at 13, or no, sorry, like, well, like, 14, whatever, we were going on there, and just the things that we were seeing at 14, or however old, is so crazy.
But here's the thing, I think, like, kids have always been, like, exposed to these things at a younger age. Like, you like watch these movies, or you hear, like, stories from older people where they're like, yeah, like, I found my dad's pornos under the bed. To clarify, I did not. Like, I'm just saying, like
you said,
no, like, as an example, you know. But the difference is it's, like, so much harder to control, and it's also, like, it's a difference between finding thing that's, like, maybe this is slightly inappropriate for you versus this is going to change your entire, like, moral thinking.
The thing is, though, like, I think, yes, like, he wasn't into sports, and that's totally fine. I think, like, maybe as parents, like, the things they could have done differently is, like, just made sure that he was doing, like, some kind of, like, okay, he wasn't into sports, but maybe make sure he was in, like, a club or just, like, something that kept him occupied after school. Because it would be, like, worrying that, like, he was just, like, if you didn't know what he was doing at all. And it's kind of what we were talking before with the Ruby Frankie thing, where it's, like, you know, privacy is a privilege, and kids should only have, like, a certain amount of privacy. And I do actually agree with that, because it's like, okay, they're not, like, adults. You should be monitoring them in some way. And so that's the thing that, like, as parents, they maybe could have done differently, was making sure that he just, like, was occupied with other things.
Right.
And, I mean, they say, and, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's interesting because, so there's this whole thing that Jamie brings up where he's like, I'm ugly, I'm the ugliest boy of my year, and he's not. He's not. He's a very cute-looking boy. Is. But I think it's because that is when you're 13, I think everyone thinks they're ugly. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the, like, bullying and the gripes and stuff, like, I was like, it's kind of like when you think back on your middle school years and you're like, oh, like that, like I was so insecure, and it's like everyone was.
Everyone was, but you have to remember though, like he was thinking that because he was told that. Like, remember, so the whole thing, and you know, you do, episode 3 is very interesting because, again, this is the episode, and also I think Erin Doherty, who plays the therapist, psychologist, she should also be nominated for an Emmy because she was, like, incredible, and I love her. But she's like talking to him, and she's just, again, she's trying to get to the root of everything, and that could influence his sentencing. So she's trying to find, like, a motive, and he is talking about basically it comes to that the reason he killed his classmate, her name is Katie, is because she basically bullied the shit out of him.
See, but the thing is, it didn't sound like she bullied him that much. It sounded like so what happened was...
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well... let me just preface it by... Okay, so yes, you're right. He also was in the wrong in parts, but I'm just saying she was, like, mean to him. Like, and so that's where I was kind of like, I don't condone that you should now go and kill somebody, but, like, that's where you sort of feel, like, a little bit of sympathy for him, because, like, it was really sad. It's sad what kids have to deal with, because, like, he and his, they keep going to the fact that he has Instagram, and she's asking him, why do you have an Instagram? And he's like, so I can't see what my people are posting if I don't have an Instagram. And she's like, yeah, but, like, you're posting things. And basically, like, what happens is if you find out that, like, Katie, a nude photo of her was, like,
on Snapchat.
Snapchat was being passed around. And he took that opportunity where everybody's calling her, like, a slut, basically, and just, like,
a slag, to be British.
A slag. Calling her a slag, and, like, he takes that opportunity to now ask her out, because he literally says, which again,
she's
is kind
at her
of, like,
weakest.
Really mature talk for, like, a 13-year-old. It's kind of like, I don't think somebody would speak like that. But anyway, he was like, she would be at her, that's when she was at her weakest. Like, maybe I could ask her out, and she would say yes, because she would have to, because nobody, but she, like, laughs in his face and is like, I wouldn't be that desperate.
But the thing is, how accurate do you think it is? Like, maybe she rejected him because, again, how many people are probably
commented on his photos and was, like, mean to him on the captions. They have that evidence.
But she was calling him an incel, which he was. You know what I mean? So I think,
but that's still mean to, like, I'm not saying, okay, like, again, these are kids, like, but I'm just saying she was, like, bullying him.
Yeah. I think she was bullying him. I think he was getting bullied in general, but some of the, like, stuff that he talks about does feel like an everyday.
He was, yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I think some of it is, like, a cycle too, because again, like, so he is, and I'm not blaming her for this, but I'm just saying because of all that, it's now feeding more into, like, his hatred for her. And I mean, he's obviously, like, that was psychotic of him to go and kill her, but and he followed her, so it wasn't I'm not Team Jamie. I just am saying, like, you see this 13-year-old and you're just like, oh, and again, he looks like a 9-year-old. No. And it was sad.
Yes, no, I think it's very sad. And I think the point that I'm trying to get at is, like, some of the bullying and stuff that they talk about is interesting, because to me, I'm like, that sounds like it happened to a lot of people that, like, I went to school with, including myself. You know, like, people called me Unistache in middle school. To clarify, I had a unibrow and mustache. But I think that they did that on purpose to show, like, this could happen to anyone. Like, this could be any student with, like, the right amount of access and the right, like, the right setting, you know what I mean? And I also think what's interesting about that is it does show kind of this weird dichotomy where you can see, like, the morals he was raised with versus, like, what he's reading online. Because when he talks about Katie getting that picture sent around, he actually says, he's like, he calls people sending them, like, that sent her picture around, he calls them, like, wankers or whatever. Mm-hmm. Wankas. And,
Proper wanker.
And, like, that he felt bad for her. Like, he was, like, condemning sending her picture around. But then it's like this weird, so it's like, I can, like, okay, I can see you being raised to be like, okay, yeah, it's bad to send people's pictures around, but then it's like the Andrew Tate stuff gets in there, and it's like when it's your insecurities, your literal like frail male ego that you have when you're 13 is, you know, comes into play, then suddenly you're gonna kill her. Like, it's her fault, and he's taking out all of the, like, frustrations or whatever on her.
Yeah, I mean, again, all I was just saying was, like, that's, and I agree, I mean, again, there's no defense for it, I just was saying, like, I just felt, and also in episode 3, the other part that made me really sad was just, like, at the end when, because he has multiple breakdowns and freakouts, and he's kind of threatening, he's, like, a little scary towards Erin Doherty's character, and so finally at the end, they're like, she's just like, okay, well, this was my final session with you, and she's keeping it completely professional, whereas they've clearly, leading up to this, they've had, like, kind of a relationship, like, growing, like, they're, like, not a friendship, because she can't be friends with him, but, like, a little rapport, whatever. And she tells him, like, this is our last session, and now I'm gonna talk to the judge about, like, what my findings, and he starts to freak out, and he freaks out because he's like, what are you gonna tell the judge? But also he's just, like, upset because she's leaving him now. Yeah. And he wants to get out of the mental facility, obviously. But he starts freaking out and just, like, crying and just, like, kind of causing a scene. And he's just like, do you like me? Like, I just need to know, like, did you like me this whole time? And she's just like, I can't, she has to keep it professional, and it's like really sad. And she's just like watching this kid be like dragged out sobbing and freaking out that, you know, just like, because he sees her as a friend. He's like, I like you. And then afterwards she like gets really emotional. And I'm just like, how hard would that job be?
Yeah.
Because you're like, to see that, like, I just felt like the acting was so good, and it was just really emotional.
And I think like, again, the guy who plays, what did I say his name was? Owen Cooper, who plays the kid, is so phenomenal because the way, and also the writing is great, the way that they interlace like these things about both him being a kid and these kind of like adult thoughts and adult actions that he's done. And also the misogyny is so interesting because they talk about like the 80-20 stuff, they talk about like the Andrew Tate stuff, but they are not like getting into it. They are saying it as in they know that the audience watching this has some sort of understanding or absorbency. They're like, we don't need to get into, they don't even say who Andrew Tate is. Right. They just say his name. Yeah. And I think like even in the way that like Jamie's character is talking in that scene, his misogyny is not like overt, you know? Yeah. It is like he'll like at one point, like when he's getting angry, she waves the guard away and he's like, oh, waving her away like a queen. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of like, and there's also like a weird misogyny between like Aaron Doherty's character and the security guard where he's like kind of hitting on her and she's like, I'm here to talk to a child that killed another child.
Right. And he's also trying to like, he's like, yeah, I'm reading a book on like analyzing, and he's just like, so this is what I've, and this is like literally her profession, and she's just trying to like watch the footage and whatever. But yeah, it was interesting. But I was just saying about like him being dragged, like the emotional part is just like, that's the difference between like the adult part of him, and then also just like where you're just like, oh, this is a kid.
Yeah. And you know what I also think is interesting, going back to episode 2? So episode 2 is where, like, the police officers are in the school, and they're trying to find Jamie's friends. And again, it's one long shot, and it's all chaotic. The amount that they, like, you hear that the teachers have to be like, put your phone away. Get off your phone.
I can't even imagine what it's like now.
I can't imagine either. Like, it's probably crazy. And then it's interesting because there's, like, so throughout, like, the first 2 episodes, so the guy who plays the police officer, his name is Detective Bascom, and it's played by Ashley Walters. Hot, first of all. He is wearing some tight-ass things on those muscular arms. Yeah. But there's like this whole thing where his relationship with him and his son is actually kind of similar to the relationship that Jamie and his dad have. But there's like, I don't know, like, and I think it's goes to say like, what's the difference here between these two kids? We don't really know. But at the end of the episode, like, Detective Bascom, I think that's his name, whatever, the detective, he finally is like, oh, like Adam, to his son, he's like, do you want to go get like fish and chips together? Like, let's spend some time together.
Please go with him. Like, yeah, he wants to.
And he does. Yeah. But as you pull away, if you look at the background, all the kids are on their phones. All the kids face down on their phones.
Can I say what, like, to me, and this is where I was trying to get at before, and I'm not blaming, like, I still think, like, Jamie's at fault, but I think the difference is just, like, how he's treated by his peers probably did have an influence on the way he turned out.
Oh, I think it's
like that kid is not made fun of or whatever and bullied the way that, like,
no, he is. Do you remember, like, they're like in the first scene, like literally the first scene of the show, it's the detective, he's texting his son who's trying to get out of going to school by saying that he has a stomachache. Oh, yeah. And then they later show him getting bullied for lunch money and getting bullied because his dad is there and whatever. So he is getting bullied. So I think it's supposed to be like, you're supposed to be like, okay, here's like a parallel almost between like a similar situation. Yeah. What's the difference? This one kid had access to Andrew Tate as much as he wanted until like 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's really what like the producers are trying to...
Yeah. I just think it's both. Like, I just think it's kind of a cycle. I just don't think it helped that he was also just like, you know, if he had had more friends and he was more like involved or whatever, then he would be, he wouldn't have as much of a reason to just like, to disassociate or whatever and get into like all that stuff. And it's also the influence of like his peers and his friends that are into that too. Yeah.
And I guess like some of the stuff with like the bullying, the thing is he had like 2 really good friends. And I'm like, when I was in middle school, I had like 2 really good, like I wasn't, you know, like, and I'm not saying like, I'm not comparing my bullying to his, but I'm just saying like, I think like kids in middle school, like everyone gets bullied on some level. And if you're, again, have access to Andrew Tate far-right bullshit about how to be a man or whatever,
Right.
then that's really going to influence how you handle it, especially if your parents don't have any regulation or they don't realize that that's going on.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting because at the end of the final episode, there's just a really emotional scene between the two parents, and they're talking, and they're just like, again, they're just reflecting on like how this happened and what went wrong. And it's the mom, I think her name is Manda, says, she's just like, I think it's okay that we just accept that we should have done something differently. And she's like, I think it's okay for us to just accept that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in the first episode, you can tell like the dad is very much like, my son didn't do it. He says he didn't do it. He didn't do it, until they show him a literal video, which makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
But because even then it's like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting because so the third episode with the psychiatrist, I think, is like 7 months later, but the last episode, which doesn't have Jamie in it at all, it's just
Except
the
for
family.
A phone call.
Yeah. It's just the family. It's 13 months later, and it's them like showing the repercussions of like what they have to deal with. And you can tell that it's like they're still grappling like like in their mind, like they know he did it, but it's also like a sense of like self-denial, I think.
Well, but also they have to do, because like it's like they can't really move on with their lives. They want to move. The mom wants to move to Liverpool, and they're like, we can't. Like they're literally, again, like we said earlier, their van is defaced. Like they're being harassed for his actions. They can't really hide from it. Plus, their son is like not living with them, and is like, you know, possibly. Well, whatever, like they're probably not going to see him again for a while. And that's the thing that like kind of got me at the end was and this is why I think like Stephen Graham will probably like win an Emmy, because like his scene at the end was really emotional.
I cried.
Yeah, he goes into the room, his son's bedroom, and it's almost like his son has died because he's not there, and it's almost like watching a parent go into like a kid's room that died.
Yeah.
But he's not dead, and that's like the weird thing is like it's like he's grieving his child who is still alive, but it's like that's why I'm not saying like this is worse than having a child that died, because he can at least still talk to him. He calls him for his birthday and stuff, but it's like, what? I can't even imagine just the mixed feelings of that and just the complicated emotions with like your son is still alive, but it's like you're never probably going to be able to hug him again. Right. And that's just like so just like weird to me.
And I am curious. I meant to look this up, but like I'm curious, like, what the future looks like for Jamie. Like, you did this at 13. Like, do you ever...
How long would you... Yeah. Did they say, like, what his sentence would be?
No, because so...
Like what it could be, I mean.
Oh, I don't think so. But there's a whole scene where it's like the family is driving to, again, go get paint to cover up, like, the defacing of the car.
Yeah.
And Jamie calls to wish his dad, like, a happy 50th birthday. And he says on the call, he's like, I know it's not the day to tell you this, but I think, like, I'm going to plead guilty.
Yeah.
Which means he's spent the past 13 months still being like, I didn't do it.
Right. And
which is so
they kind
crazy.
Of seemed surprised, almost like they weren't, like, wanting him to do... Like... But the thing is, again, that's what's crazy is, like, what do you mean you don't think you're guilty, like, all that time? Because, like, there was a video.
but I think it's, like, I think it's almost like he, I don't know if he's, like, a sociopath or what, but it almost seems like he has, like, he doesn't remember that part of him or something. Like, I don't know. Because when he says he's like, I didn't do it, like, you really believe him.
Yeah, but the thing is, he tries to say that video was altered. Yeah, maybe he doesn't remember, maybe blacked out or something. But I just think, like, I just take it as, like, he's just not wanting to admit it. But yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe he just doesn't remember it. Yeah. But I think
it's interesting because it places a lot of emphasis on social media in the way that, like, I think, you know, for as long as time, like, when you're in middle school, like, there's always, or high school or whatever, there's always a social ranking, but social media makes that social ranking more definitive. Where, like, when she's asking, why do you have an Instagram? And it's like, yeah, like, because I want people to like my stuff and I'll like their stuff. So it's, like, how I know where I am on the social. Right. And there's a thing where it's, like, in the second episode, the detective is interviewing Jamie's friend, and the friend just keeps going, were you popular in school? You're pretty popular, right? Like, he's fixated on it.
Right. But can you imagine, like, as a kid, like, you're being faced with, like, because they show him in the first episode, they show them, like, showing him and his dad, like, his Instagram, like, things that he likes, the model pictures and stuff. Can you imagine having to, like, deal with, like, what? But yeah.
It's funny because I think about, like, if we sat down with, like, me and my parents now, and they would just be like, wow, there's a lot of depressing poems and like pictures of witches with cats.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of Phantom of the Opera, like Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
I think what I was like gonna say though with Jamie, that was just kind of like, you know, because you still have to love your kid. But it's just, like, it's so wild. Like, what would you do? Because in the first episode, when they do finally, they're like, look, we got video. And they show them the video. And that's obviously the damning evidence that it's like, obviously it was pretty intense. If they busted into his house, they obviously have really good evidence. But I think, when they show the video, the dad is obviously in shock. And he's just like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And the son is, like, crying. And he's trying to, like, touch his, like, dad, like, I didn't do it. And the dad, like, flinches from him. And I'm like, yeah, like, what would you do if that was your child? Because them, like, calling him, and you obviously have to, he needs somebody. He needs his family still. But I just, like, it would be so hard for me to be like, you killed somebody.
I think the thing is, it's not even, like, if it weren't your child with someone else, you'd be like, oh my God, you killed someone. But I think as a parent, you would be like, as they are doing, what did I do wrong to get to the point where you killed someone?
Yeah, that's like, true.
I think it would be a lot of
they see it as their fault.
And, which, like, I mean, your child's 13, so, like, it kind of is a little bit. Like, it's not on you. You didn't kill someone, but, like, you know, you weren't, like, monitoring your child. Again, I don't have a child, and also you just gave them, the thing is, they gave them full reign of access to the internet. Like, they would say, they were like, yeah, we could see him, like, on the internet until, like, 3 a.m., and we'd be like, oh, you have to go to bed or whatever. And it's like...
Right, like, my parents would have been, like, taking stuff away. Like, they should have maybe... It reminds me, have you ever seen the movie, and I think it's a book, too, but it's called We Need to Talk About Kevin?
Yes, I've seen the movie.
Yeah, and it's...
Well, that's interesting, because he is, like, a sociopath.
Well, he's... Literally, that's what the whole story is about, is, like, he's... trigger warning, I guess, but he's a school shooter.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is about, like, the mom... I mean, it's a little different, because I guess, like, she just straight up kind of, like, didn't love him from the start, I think. Wasn't that kind of it? But she did raise him normal.
Yeah, well, because I think the thing is, so when I've done research about sociopaths, as I sometimes do, the thing is usually, like, a sociopath, like, it's like you're born like that.
Right.
So, as, like, at an early age, I think a lot of parents can kind of tell, like, okay,
like, I have a disconnect from this kid.
This child, and that is one of my greatest fears, because it's not like a thing where it's like, oh, I raised them to be a sociopath. Like, they just come out like that.
But that's what's horrific about that, is, like, she doesn't know, like, what she did to, like, make him do that. Like, he just did it. And it's not like she raised him any differently. Again, he has a sibling. And that's, like, with this, it's, they have a daughter. Yeah. The daughter's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, for some reason, Jamie just... turned out like that. I don't know.
And I think it's just, like, again, I think what's interesting is, once again, it's kind of like when we watched Mickey 17 and we were like, oh, like, who is this for? This is obviously, like, very, like, politically minded. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think the people who should be watching this probably aren't going to watch it.
Yeah.
Who should be like, this is a great warning, and we should maybe, like, think about these things.
Well, the one thing I saw, and I didn't watch it or read it, but what I kept seeing was, like, Stephen Graham sends out a warning to parents. So to me, I'm taking that as, like, the show is targeted towards parents.
I was reading this article, I can't remember what it was, but it was, like, I don't know, some journalist who was like, I viewed this with, like, 100 middle schoolers or whatever, which is weird. Wow. And they were talking about it afterwards, and one of them was like, yeah, well, my older brother, like, when Andrew Tate comes up, he takes the piss out of him, and then, like, I'm just like, okay, well, I can't take him seriously. And they interview the older brother, who's, like, maybe 17, like, has a sense of awareness, and he's like, I saw Andrew Tate stuff before my younger brother did, and I knew if I made fun of him, then, like, he wouldn't take him seriously.
Aww.
Which is good. Like,
that's
it's
really
very yeah, it is. And it's like, yeah, like, it is about, like, again, like, it's interesting because, like, you know, you can tell based on, like, Detective Bask, whatever his name is, like, his son has to basically explain, like, the manosphere, the Andrew Tate stuff, and I'm sure, like, if you said that to, like, Jamie's parents, he would too. So I think, like, there is almost a responsibility on the parent, even though I know that, like, this is tough, but you have to be up to date on these stuff.
I know.
Because otherwise, like, but without being,
we've got to do this podcast until we have children.
Yeah, well, hopefully we will.
I hope so too.
And then maybe after.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, we have to continue doing this.
And we'll let you guys know.
So we stay up to date, and parents, like, we'll keep you updated, or not parents yet, but, like, our ages or whatever, like, we'll let you guys know, and that way, wow, we're actually doing people a service with this podcast. I just realized we could be heroes.
Yeah. Wait, what was I saying?
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's like, you can't protect yourself from, like, Andrew Tate mentality, the 80-20 stuff, which, again, I had no idea about.
Yeah,
I also don't have
never
children.
Heard of that, yeah.
If you don't know what it is. So it's like, but now that they're at, like, it's just tough because, like, they have access to the internet. So it's like, you can't know about everything.
But I do wonder, and that's where I'm kind of like, okay, parent, like, yes, they did everything right, blah, 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 but they didn't see maybe his demeanor when he came home. Like, did he seem super happy?
No, they said he, like, would just go upstairs, they would shut himself in his room.
That's what I'm saying.
But
so
I think
like,
sometimes
that
parents,
is on them for not, like...
Yeah. And I think sometimes parents are just like, well, like, he's just being a teenager type thing.
That's true.
Like, I did that when I was a teenager.
I know. That is the hard thing, is, like, knowing, like, are they depressed or are they just a teenager? Oh my gosh. We'll never know.
Anyways. And I also think what's interesting...
That you did kill somebody.
Is I think it's like, so the person who's the assistant to the detective, she's like, what makes me mad is no one's going to remember Katie, who's the girl who was stabbed. I don't think we've actually even said her name.
Because I've, like, spent so much time calling her a bully, but it's just true.
It's true. Like, no one, like... People will put, like, the memorial or whatever, but what gets remembered is this 13-year-old boy who killed her.
I know. Because he's famous. At one point, they mentioned that he's famous. Like, when Aaron Doherty shows up at they're like, yeah, that kid's not as famous as, like, your kid. You know? Like, so he's famous at this point. The thing is, the girl, her friend, is, like, the girl that plays her friend is a very good actor, too.
Yeah.
In episode 2, she's just... very upset by it because, and they do talk about her a little bit. They say, like, oh, she was, like, gonna be a good, like, she had a lot going for her or whatever.
And I think what's interesting,
she sounded to be like a bully, but I also feel a little bad for her. I don't know. Like,
was she a bully, or was she someone who had her tits shown to the entire school at 13 and then someone, like, it was like the same day?
But she was doing that to him. Wasn't she commenting on stuff before that happened? I thought she had always, like, been mean to him.
I think
I'm not defending. I'm not team Jamie.
I think she had been mean to him, but I think it happened after. And maybe it's one of those things where it's like, she was bullied, so then she took it out on him. He was bullied, so then he took it out on her. You know, like a cyclical bullying. What's interesting about, so in the second episode, they touch on Katie's friend. Katie is the girl who died. Mm-hmm. They touch on her friend, and they, you know, the friend is obviously, it's her best friend.
Right.
She's having an emotional reaction. This is maybe the next day, a day or two later. And they're like, shouldn't you be home? Like, and she's like, well, I can't stay home. My mom doesn't want me to be home by myself, but she has to work. And I think some of this is like a warning of like the I don't want to say absent parenting, because I don't know if she's an absent parent.
Right, why
but
wouldn't
like,
the mom be like at home with her?
But I think like I would say it's a commentary on today's society where it's like, I can't take off work to be at home with her because if I don't go to work, I'm not going to get paid.
That's true. Yeah.
Probably. Like, and then we can't survive.
What do we do then?
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's not about the absentee parents, more about like society.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a deep comment on society on multiple layers where it's just like, maybe we should have systems set up where it's like, if I need to take care of my kid, I can take care of my fucking kid when her best friend is stabbed to death.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like,
imagine, and like, I'm not saying like, you know, you can have an emotional reaction, but imagine like if someone stabbed you to death and then I had to go to
take a day off work.
I would be taking a lot of time off work, Molly. But like, imagine you had to go to
at least a week.
School the next day where everyone's talking about it. You have to sit there and stare at his best friends. Like, if that were my child, like, yes,
you would be punching some people too.
Yes, I'd be punching some people. I'd be like, yeah, you're not going to school. But also, again, it's like, you don't go to school or we don't eat, probably. Which you don't know. Like, they don't say that. But that's like the kind of inference I'm getting.
But you definitely got that zone out of her, like, at the end of the episode. You definitely got the feeling that she was just, like, lonely.
Yeah.
So I think it's more than just maybe the mom going to work and like needing to work. It sounds like she just like had no one now. Right. Her best friend is gone.
Because I think at one point she said, she's like, yeah, like Katie's my best friend. And then I think she like maybe, I can't remember, but I think she said something where she's like, she's my only friend. And then she was like, but she was the greatest friend. Or something like that. Which is so interesting. She really decked that kid.
She did.
I was proud of her. But also, it was, like, so accurate. I thought the school scene was so accurate because there's a fire alarm that goes out and they all get into the lines and the tennis courts. And I'm like, the chaos of this is so, like, I'm just like, this is so well done.
The chaos of the fight scene was, too.
Yes, it's so perfect.
Yeah, it was a very good show. And you know what else? I was going to say this too, with like it being a one shot, some of that could be a lot of improv because when you think about it, it's probably like a play. I mean, it's really impressive, but also people in plays have to do that. So it's probably like I don't know how many of them are theater actors, but like I imagine, you know, it's that same thing. And I think like maybe that could have been why it was so natural seeming, because they did probably have to improv a little bit when it's like one take.
What I think was great with that one take, that was the background actors, you know?
Yeah.
And also I was going to say, even with the fire drill scene was just like so realistic. Like they were showing people in their PE uniforms where it's just like, yeah, they were at gym and a fire drill happened, you know? Like, and I think it's just it feels so real.
Yeah.
And I think the way they did that makes it even scarier. Like it makes it hit home.
Right. Now I'm afraid to have a kid now.
Yeah, I kind of am too. I
have a girl.
But then you have a girl, and then you have guys
who might be stabbed.
Yeah, then you have like male violence against her. So I just hope that when I have children, if I have children, that I can raise them to be good people. But isn't that what we all hope? Because at a certain point, and I think when you're at like you're 13, it's like, okay, you can raise them as well as you want, but now they're really starting to be exposed to the world. They're starting to really form themselves.
Yeah.
And hopefully who they form is not a murderer.
I know.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either, because again, like knowing me, I'm like scared of people. So like I would be like, oh my God, you're a murderer. Like I'd be so afraid of them now.
I'm just picturing you like, did you ever see that movie Orphan?
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like that as like a little blonde like orphan, and that's like, and you're just on the couch and you just are like,
yeah, I'm like scared.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying, like the only
Matthew.
thing I can really compare it to is like if Matilda killed somebody.
Yeah.
And I'd just still, like, I'd be, like, I think I'd be scared of her.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think if your dog killed someone, I do think, like, and I love
there would be other actions
taken.
Yes,
as opposed to, like, a person killing a person.
That's true.
But, yeah, I would be afraid of her, too. I think, but the thing is, not her, but, like, I would be afraid if Poe killed someone.
Can you imagine? Poe would do it in like a really crazy way too. Like it'd be like a really psycho way. You know what I mean? Not like it'd be a very manipulated, thought out.
She accidentally knocks over a candle that burns down the house,
or like an accident. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Aw.
She's dead asleep right now.
Well, anyway, if you haven't watched it, definitely watch Adolescence.
It was really good.
It was really good. I'm glad I watched it. And also, it was funny this weekend. I literally was like 2 seconds away from saying, Alexa, have you watched Adolescence? And she literally goes, have you been watching Adolescence? And I was like, oh.
I was fully prepared for it to be one of those moments where I recommend a show to you, and then you're like, oh, maybe like I'll get to it.
I almost didn't watch it.
And I was going to be like, Molly, do not come on this podcast again until you watch it, because like it's the same thing when you recommended like the Ruby Frankie documentary where I was like, you are going to want to watch this.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have a lot to say.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I think it will be on the Emmys.
Oh, it absolutely will. There are so many things I keep watching that I'm like, that'll be at the Emmys.
The Pit, I just started watching that.
Do you think that will be?
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, every time I listen to a like pop culture or movie review or whatever podcast, they always mention, they're like, yeah, like, I was listening to one about Severance, and they were like, we're watching Severance, but you should be watching The Pit.
I don't like medical dramas, though, so that's going to be a tough one for me.
I think it's different. I love medical dramas. It feels more realistic. Like, it feels like the stuff that's happening in the ER is more prominent to, like, the drama, like, outside of it. There are some gross...
Okay,
there are, like, a few gross things, but...
I'm really squeamish. So that might be an issue for me.
But also what I think is interesting is it's hour by hour. So it's like one shift at an ER. So like the first shift is like 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. The second episode is 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.
I feel really stupid, but I just recently found out or realized that the White Lotus takes place, like, each episode is a day. I didn't realize that. Like, I guess literally morning to night. Like, they go to bed at the end of each episode. I, like, never realized that.
That's crazy, because I do know, like, they're there for, like, a week.
But... Yeah, I'm glad you didn't know either, because I feel, like, stupid that I just realized it recently.
That's crazy. But no, The Pit is really good. I do think it's going to get nominated for a lot of stuff.
Maybe I'll... give it a try, but I've heard
I think it touches, like, I'm only halfway through, but I think it touches on a lot of things that are, like, very important and pivotal. I think it's well done.
Not that it matters, but is there anybody in it that's famous, or is it like, I'm just
curious.
I
think it's a lot of, like,
new people,
unknown actors, but they do an amazing job.
I was just curious if anybody.
It was really good. But speaking of Severance,
the finale.
Which we watched together.
We watched together, and I'm really glad. I love when we, like, watch. I love watching things with people, like, big things like that, because it just needs to be watched with others. And I am certainly glad, like, for example, we watched the Succession finale together.
Right.
But I'm really glad that we watched the Severance finale together, because I could not have reacted to that by myself.
No, I think, like, that's why sometimes, like, there's reality shows where I'm like, I wish I were watching this with people, because that's what makes it fun. Like, watching the premiere or finale of Severance and the finale of Succession, all of that, and like together was great.
I know.
It like it's like the energy in the room. The
energy, because we're just like we're so excited to see like what things get tied up, and so when you're reacting to something that you knew might happen, then you can cheer together. Yeah, and also just this episode had so many just weirdo moments that I loved. The marching band scene,
him running out of the door.
Oh my gosh,
so good.
Milchick really stole the show in this episode.
If he does not get Emmy noms, wins.
He will get wins. Yeah, wins. I actually think, I don't know. I think he should win. I think that
absolutely.
So, did you know that the first season was nominated, and I think Adam Scott and John Turturro were nominated, but like nobody else was, and
that's crazy.
Like not even Patricia Arquette, and I was kind of shocked by that. So
I feel like they went off this season.
I think this season they'll all be nominated.
Oh, they should. And what pisses me off,
Kelly included.
Okay, because I think about like when The Bear came out and everyone was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna fuck The Bear. It's so good. I love it. And then like Severance came out and it was like such a slow.
Silence,
yes. And
really Succession was, because like The Bear is always a comedy category. Yeah. So like I think Severance was kind of not ignored, but just like sort of under the radar because of Succession.
And it makes me mad. Yeah. It actually, because I'm like,
it's Succession though.
No, like just like the lack of like awareness until season 2, where now everyone's like, what's Severance? And I'm like, one of the greatest shows you'll ever see.
But that's Apple TV.
Yeah, they don't put any promotions except for like putting their cast in Grand Central Station.
I saw though that they have
which is very 0 to 100.
And they have such good content. Mm-hmm. Not a lot, but they do have good content. I did see that they lose $1 billion a year on Apple TV. Like, Apple loses $1 billion a year for their shows. And I think it makes sense, though, because they really don't, like, we think about it, like, yes, Severance is definitely bigger this season. I think more people obviously watch it, but I do think it's still not quite there.
But what do you think that is? Maybe some of it is, like, promotional.
Yeah, promotional. I don't think it gets... And it's weird because it does get a lot of promotion now. Yeah. Like, they're doing interviews. They're doing everything right, but it just, for some reason, I don't think... And it could be the topic, too. Maybe people don't love sci-fi quite as much.
Yeah, I was going to say they heavily lean into sci-fi. I forget what it is. There's some show that's coming out on... Oh, The Studio is coming out on Apple TV. Yeah. And I thought to myself, that looks like a really good show, but it's so far from the 90% of the content they create. Or there's a really good show that I watched years ago. It's called Trying, and it's about this couple... And it's very funny, actually, who are, like, trying to get pregnant and struggling, and then they have to go through the adoption process. So it's like they have these random really good...
is one of the best shows, like, I don't even know if you've heard it. It's a musical.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And if you don't like musicals, then that's one thing. But, like, as somebody who loves musicals, it is, like, such a good show. And it got canceled after 2 seasons. But if it had been on, like, Hulu or Netflix, like, it definitely would have done better.
But then they have stuff like The Gorge.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Well, every streamer has a... flop.
Yeah, but still, I'm just like, you probably spent so much money on this. But the thing is, they're losing $1 billion, but it's Apple.
It's Apple. Like, and they're fine. And also, I'm fine with that if they're making good content. I'm like, yes, make art. That's fine.
I've been meaning to watch Slow Horses. People love that. I know I'm really behind
I think
on the train.
I started it and just like didn't get into it, but I love the cast. Like,
people say it starts literally slow. But
Slow Horses.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Severance finale.
Yeah, sorry.
It was insane. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more next week, too.
With a special guest who will listen to this now, and I bet she's smiling. Aww.
And we'll get a text. Or he.
They.
But
or it. Or it.
Or it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a she. Anyways. But yeah, so we're going to talk about more, but I love this show. And once again, I was going to say to you, I realized, I'm like, I feel like when we first, like, both realized we watched Severance, which was before I think this podcast even started, and you were like, you said, I think you were like, I'm surprised you watched it multiple times. Like, you weren't like, you're like, I liked it, but you weren't, like, into it.
But I think I will now.
But I think it's on the second watch that you get really, because for me,
that was me, yeah.
Yes, because I watched it the first time with my mom when it first came out.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't even want to finish it. Like, after the first 3 episodes, I was like, this is kind of boring. And then I was like, okay, I really like it.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again. I was like, I fucking love it. And I could tell that was happening with you as you watched it.
That is what happened, because I watched the first season and I thought it was good. I, like, watched the whole thing. And again, like, I thought it was a good show, but then once it ended, and people freak out over the fact that it took 3 years for them to make a season 2, and that is crazy, but I was really not feeling that. Like, I was just kind of like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't, like, missing it, and thank God I wasn't, because I would have been way more pissed if I, like, was in love with it now that, like, I am now.
Yeah.
And so once I gave it a second watch before season 2 came out, then I was like, oh, hell yeah, I love this show.
And I think it's because on the second watch, you just pick up on so many things that you don't, like, on the first watch, you're just kind of like, what's going on? Like,
I cared about the characters way more in season, on the second watch. Like, I am such an Irving girly.
Mm.
And he was missing from the finale, and that made me very sad.
A girlving?
Irvly.
Girvly.
I felt like his storyline got a little messy in season 2, though, towards the end. So
I'm curious if he even comes back for season 3.
I had heard somebody say, like, he maybe not.
Yeah, or, like, if he does, it's, like, 1 episode. But it's like he's...
I don't like that.
They put him on a train.
Character.
Yeah, they put him on a...
He was looking out the window like, girl, who's gonna be okay?
Yeah. Like...
He's my favorite character, so if he doesn't come back, I will be royally sad.
Yeah.
I'm also just really depressed at the end of that episode.
Yeah, that was a really sad episode. And I was listening to this review earlier, some podcast. I think it was
saying at the end of finale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's called, like, the Prestige podcast, where they were saying, you know, honestly, I didn't care that much about Irving's outie. I cared more about his innie. Like, I would have been fine. I couldn't get a
feel for his outie. Like, I didn't really know who he was.
I would have been fine if they ended his outie, or his innie, on the episode where it was like, flip the switch, Seth, where he's like dunking,
Seth.
Yeah, where he's dunking her, you know. Like, I kind of didn't need, like, the dinner with, but I think the
dinner threw me off because I thought that was going to go way darker than it did.
But I think they wanted to do the dinner because it brought up moral questions that, like, maybe they want to talk about in Severance, where it's like, oh, if your innie goes to hell or to heaven, can your outie go to hell, type of thing. Whoa. Which is really playing on, I think, this season, this whole season was, like, really honing in on the fact that, like, it's like, yeah, these are 2 souls.
But I just thought they were gonna, right, and I thought, like, the 2 of them were gonna do something, like, I thought they were gonna be bad, like, I thought, and it wasn't.
Well, Bert clearly killed, like, he never said he didn't kill anyone, but he drove them to be killed, which is very, like...
And obviously the whole thing of he can just easily, like, he sees this all as, like, a game, like, he can just easily just be severed because he wants to see if he, like, it's just that kind of thing. But I just thought it was gonna get, like, way worse, and it just didn't go anywhere. But the finale was very good. Because I'll be honest with you, the end of the last few episodes were really, like, the vibe was kind of getting killed. Like, well, the Gemma episode was great.
Yeah.
But then I honestly did not, I'm sorry, I think it was an important episode, but the Cobell episode did not need to be a whole episode.
Yeah, it was actually the shortest episode. It was, like, it was like 45 minutes or something. And like you said, it was an important episode, but I'm just like, okay, now you're doing drugs and making out on your mom's deathbed.
And it was weird. And it was so I just thought it was boring. I also was having a bad day that day, and my kava was bad. Ooh. And, like, I got kava, thought I was going to make it better.
That's the worst.
And I was like, new episode of Severance, I'm going to watch it. And it was just like, of course it's not good. Of course it's a bad episode.
But you know what I'm excited for is an episode all about Mr. Milchek.
Oh,
which I think we're going to get next season. I think it's coming. I think they really built him up this season.
They did, but do you know what? I was almost like, I kind of, not that he's a mystery, because we did really get a lot more of him, but, like, No, I do. What am I saying? I do want a full Milchek.
And it doesn't even have to be like a background episode, but I want an episode where maybe we did get a little bit of that this season, but it's like all focused on Milchek. But I want to know, like, where does he live? I love that he rides a motorcycle.
But see, that's what I mean. Is like, do I want to know that? I kind of want an air of mystery about him, but I think they will eventually, because I think he's obviously a very important character. So, but the best scene of the whole episode was the marching band scene.
Oh my god, it's
and
so...
him running was crazy.
Did you see the promo for it? Like, or not the promo, like he went to
the panel, like when
the panel
And
discussion.
he did, but I told you guys that I read that he was in marching band in school.
Well, okay, so I also want to mention, and I think Chris informed us of this, so there's a scene where, what is it, where he runs out of the room? What's happening in that scene?
Dylan's with Dylan.
Dylan is looking over he submitted a resignation form to his Audi, and his Audi replied, Dylan's looking over, Mr. Milchick hands it to him, and then Mr. Milchick, like, kind of out of frame, you see him just sprint out of the room, and we were all dying laughing.
Because it was actually kind of scary. Like, actually, like, scared me.
But the way, and so apparently Chris said that he improv'd that, which is like, I'm like,
so funny.
That makes sense. I bet, like, on set they were like, hell yeah.
Yeah, he's so funny.
He's
just, well, he's one of those, like, character, like, as an actor, he's so, funny, but then also just, like, there's something, like, so sinister about him, too.
Because even when he was doing, like, the marching band scenes, it's like he does this
terrifying.
Smile. Yes.
It was supposed to be, it was like the waffle party, but crazier.
He's like doing, like, it's frolic. He's frolicking.
But it's like,
but there's a little bit of whoa.
But he's threateningly marching. It's like a threatening.
Yeah, it's like when he has like the stick and he's doing like he's moving his shoulders. Yes, I want to move like him.
I do too. Well, the scene where he's dancing, like the waffle party
moves like
scene.
Milchick.
Ooh, that would also be a good episode title. Oh, damn. Anyway, I miss our episode titles.
We could still do episode titles.
Yeah, we could. Anyway.
Yeah. I just think that Milchick,
I'm in love with him.
I am too. I think he's very hot.
Who do you think, if you had to rank, like, the hottest?
Ooh, the hottest. Milchick's number one.
Milchick.
Mrs. Swan. No, just kidding.
Okay. Actually, what's her name? Shoot, Gemma.
Miss Casey. Yeah.
Face card?
Yeah.
Like, that's the craziest face card. Also, I saw somebody compare her to
the girl from The Incredibles. She looks exactly the same.
Who I used to think, do you know who Vanessa Kirby is from The Crown? I used to think she looked identical to her, and now I'm realizing no, it's her. It's Gemma. It's crazy.
I think Gemma is very hot, but I will say I did not think that when I only saw her as Miss Casey. Like, once they showed her as a
that's true.
And that's, like, really goes to show the effect of, like, Lumen fashion is just, like, as Miss Casey, I was like, wow, can you imagine seeing, like, that person in real life? And then I saw her, like, as a real person when they did the episode, and I was like, okay, like, she's still beautiful, but not, like, it looks like an alien, kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, she's married to the guy from, Ted Lasso.
Which guy?
You know, in season 3, which is a spoiler for Ted Lasso, but not really, but they have that guy who's, like, the very famous footballer.
Really? The one who's from, like, I forgot where he's from, but he's from a different country.
And he, like, grows avocados or something. I think she's married to him.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love her. Yes, and also, I'm an Irving girly.
Oh,
Irving
yeah.
is a fine man.
He is. I just think Milchick is, like, so hot.
He might be number one. Also, I think Adam Scott is really hot.
I do,
he looked really hot, especially in this finale episode when he was with Gemma and they were running.
Yeah. Which, like, the last, again, this is a spoiler, but
devastating.
The last scene of Gemma's face in the thing where she's basically like, what are you doing? And
no, I read, though, so I took that when I was watching it, like, when we were first watching it, I took it as, like, she was, like, she thought that was her husband, and she was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She actually, the actress confirmed that she thought it was, like, she knew it was the any mark, and she was trying to get through to him. Like, she was just like, no, like, but you know what? Okay, so
that's what I thought, but.
Oh, I didn't, I took it as, like, she was devastated that her husband was, like, leaving.
But also, I'm sure it's, like, a little bit of that, because he is her husband,
right,
you
true.
know?
But, you know what? This is why I'm kind of lately, I do like Helly a lot, but I just, like, am so it's like I don't trust her anymore.
Yeah.
Because, like, okay, yes, that maybe they belong together. I think any Helly and any Mark belong together. But, like I'm still supportive of that. But then, I mean, she still had to see, she knows that's his wife, and she still had to see, she still actively took him away from his wife. Do you know what I mean?
But I think it's different because it's just like, you don't know those people, you know? It's like, this is the only life you have.
But you see how she's like screaming and crying for him and you're like, let's run away. Like, I don't know. That really bothered me. Like, I swear, like, it's since it's since Helena took over.
Yeah.
That I just like don't trust her anymore.
I don't either. And I also think like after Helly came back, I feel like they didn't really do that much with her character this season.
The writing, and this is what I was going into when I was starting to talk about the Cobell episode, I felt like the pacing of this season got a little messed up. It got a little messy. I just wasn't trusting it anymore. I felt the first few episodes were so strong. Yeah. And then it just got a little like, I just felt like they weren't wrapping things up. And the last episode was really good. I thought it was, oh my gosh, the opening with like Mark talking to each other was so crazy.
Mark and Mark.
Mark. It was so good. Like, it was a really good finale episode. But I just was like, I don't know. I was kind of not crazy about the pacing of the season towards the end.
And you know what? I was reading this thing where I feel like they're almost prepping you to like be aware that, you know, some characters are going to fall away and we're really going to focus a lot on like very central characters, because it's like we only see Rickon in like the first 2 episodes and then he disappears.
Where did he go? And he was supposed to be, I don't know. I thought that was...
Yeah, it's just very interesting. But I think it was a phenomenal... I think they do last episodes well. And I also will say I appreciate, like, again, I always compare it to Lost, where it's like you have these puzzle box shows where it's like, at least at the end of this season, it's not like all unanswered questions. They gave us some answers. They did pose some more questions. Yep. But it's not like... I feel like at Lost, every time you're just like, here's more questions. Don't look into it.
Yeah. The numbers were his wife. Like, that was finally answered. Like, and that was crazy. Was a huge reveal. Also, special shout out to, first of all, that goat, Emil.
Oh my god, if they had killed that goat, I would have never watched the show again.
So cute.
Yes, it reminded me of Poe.
I know, it was a really cute goat, and I keep seeing gifs of like the gun to the goat's head, and I really don't like it.
Oh no.
But also, Gwendolyn Christie, who I thought was just kind of like a cameo appearance, but it turns out that they like really needed her physicality for the role.
Oh yeah,
like,
she did great.
She beats the shit out of what's his face. It's so crazy.
And I'm glad, because fuck him.
Oh my god. Also.
Oh. You agree.
I was gonna say also that scene where he throws throws Mark against the wall. Oh, that's where Adam Scott got his concussion.
Oh, I didn't know he had a concussion.
Oh yeah, like there was like a whole thing where like he got a concussion during filming, and like Ben Stiller, there was like photos of him like at the doctor, like he had to go, and apparently that was the scene. And you can see it happen, like and he literally, his head gets thrown against the wall. It's so crazy.
That's crazy. At least it was in the final episode.
Yeah.
Well, I guess unless they probably didn't
die, so
they didn't film it in order, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, did you see, I sent you this thing on Instagram. It's interesting, like, the way they do the set and the colors are very interesting, where it's like there's no reds in, like, the Severance floor, because reds are, like symbolic of, like, love and, like, certain emotions or whatever.
Because I see red as, like, a threatening color. Like, think about the Substance. They use a lot of red, because and, like, The Shining or whatever. Like, I feel like it would have been a really
But
crazy
maybe,
color.
like, I think red is, like, emotive in general, whereas like they use these kind of like whites and greens and whatever because they're trying to really like distill emotion.
And apparently Ben Stiller, like while they were filming, was just like, more hallways
yeah, which I mean, he was right. I love it because it shows like the disorientation of them and how they're like kind of perpetually lost.
Don't you think you would actually go crazy in those, like, in that building?
Oh, yes. But also I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, this is all the innies know. And it's kind of representative to, like, real life. Where it's like, life is just a series of hallways that you're picking which way to go down. Oh. You know?
I guess so.
Like, you're also kind of running around life a little bit disoriented and confused and hoping for the best.
Yeah. Life is just looming.
Yeah. But I know we're going to talk about it, like, a little bit more also next week with, again, another guest. But we did have a question of the week this week. Yeah. And again, as always, if you want to answer our question of the week, follow us at Poppin In Podcast on Instagram. We post one every week. But this week was, what random department would you add to the Severance floor?
What would you add?
So I would add...
Yeah, I know you wanted me to ask, so...
Actually, when I posed this question, I, like, didn't have an answer. I thought about it.
Really either.
I would add, like, a floor, like, a little, like, puppy interaction floor. Or, like, almost like Hogwarts where everyone gets an animal. Like, I would add, like, an animal assignee floor. Because the whole thing is, like... because I think it's interesting, like, this season, Dylan's character got to, like, meet his family on the outside, and it's like, I don't think that's good for them if you're really trying to, like, create a good experience inside, but, like, if you see your family on the outside, then you're just going to want to be on the outside. But you can create a loving relationship with a pet on the inside.
That's so true. Maybe you could just, like, have a pet, like, as your pet. Or as an innie, you just have a constant pet.
Yeah.
What would they call that floor? Puppy refinement?
They would call it, animal
optics or something.
Yeah, animal optics.
I don't know.
Animal coagulation.
Yeah.
What do you call it when, like, blood clots form together?
What if they sever
coagulation? Animal
What if they
coagulation?
What if they severed puppies and pets?
I don't know if they're gonna put the investment in that. It's like, well, the thing that would suck is, like,
their brains are so tiny.
Well, also, like, the dogs don't get to leave the severed floor, I'm sure. So that would suck for them.
They're in they're in the elevator.
Yeah, well, it was like I was telling Chris, I always think about this news story I heard years ago where it was this woman, as her last will and testament, she wanted her dog to be buried with her, but her dog was still alive.
What?
Yes.
What do they do in that situation?
I'm pretty sure they had to put the dog down.
Okay, I don't want to hear that. That makes me upset. Actually, unless the dog was really attached to the owner, then, like, yeah, sure.
I don't think in any situation, like...
No, it's messed up, but, like, what... Because but, okay, hear me out, though. An animal is so sad when they lose the person, like... when they lose somebody.
But I'm sure if an animal, like, if you were like, okay, do you want to live in this sadness or die? I think they'd be like, I guess I'll live in this sadness.
I was trying to see the beauty of it, but yeah, I guess that's not...
I just always think, like, I heard that, like, maybe, like, 10 years ago or something on the news. Like, I don't have any additional information.
It's crazy that they couldn't... Okay, but they could say that about a person. Like, what if she had said, I want my son to be buried with me? So they're going to kill her son?
But, and again, this is the
Animal
conversation
rights.
I've had with Chris, where Chris is always like, okay, well, pets are not people.
Yeah, but it's still, like...
I am not of that mindset. I think they are. But, you know.
I am, too. I think they're humans.
But legally, I think, like, to be fair, I own pet. I mean, I own pet.
I own dog.
I own Poe, but, like, I wouldn't own a child.
I have purse.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what department would you add?
Well, I think I did mention this to you and future guest.
Okay.
I think I said well, this isn't a department, though. This is just a room. I was going to say a gym, but I don't know.
That would be the physical education awareness department or something.
Yeah, because don't you think... I mean, I guess they could just run around the hallways, but I was going to say, like, if they're just at their desks all day...
I guess they're just assuming that their outies are going to do the physical exercise.
True. Some people work out...
While at work.
So, I mean, I guess you kind of have to give them that option. Because what if they go home and they literally have a bunch of kids and they have no time?
Dylan.
What if... Yeah, Dylan. But also, like, what if they had, like, a part-time job?
Yeah.
So now when do they have time to do anything? So
yeah.
Maybe, offer that. I don't know. I think if I had really time to think about it, I would offer a better answer. But I don't know.
No, I think that's a great option.
Not a department,
because it's also, like, again, this is the only life the Ennies know. And, you know, I think exercise in any form is, like, yeah, like, that's going to be beneficial to your life. Even if, like, because the exercise that they do on the outside is beneficial to you physically, like, but, you know, exercise has mental benefits. So if you're not performing it yourself, as in your innie isn't performing it, even if your outie's performing it, you're not getting, like, the mental benefits of exercise.
I mean, do they have HR?
I don't know.
So if not, then yes, like, HR would be the department. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good question. But
yeah, what did future podcast guest said? TBH, they needed an updated HR department. These employers are running amok, having sex and killing people.
Yeah,
valid.
Employees.
Sorry, employees.
Yeah, but
also the employers.
She did say something else.
I think she said a library where they could learn stuff Lumen wanted them to learn.
Right.
Even though it's going
Because
to
it couldn't be a library.
Yeah, but she also said, like, a courtyard or garden, which I think would be good, because, again, in that first episode, when What's-Her-Face is like, what is rain like, or what is the sky like, or whatever, and it's like, yeah, you don't know what the sky is like.
So, actually, now I feel like I can answer, because I thought she had said this, I just realized she said courtyard. I was going to say, like, a food court,
Ooh.
Because they only just sit at, like, a little table and just eat their little vending machine snacks, but they should be allowed to, like, have, it's such a huge building, like, why not...
More hallways.
Yeah, more hallways.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was
Yeah.
And about Severance. We'll talk more about it next week probably too. We'll have like a full special
Once
episode,
I have more to like digest, process, rewatch.
I know. I feel like we haven't even been able to process it in the last like 3 days?
Yeah, it's been a lot. But in the meantime, I'm going to refill my wine. Today we're drinking, it's called Bay Bridge Moscato. It was $4, and I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Would you like more?
I'll have a little bit more.
Glug, 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 glug. Just kidding.
Ooh. Even the bottle looks like... I keep saying that the wine tastes like perfume, and I don't mean that. Like, I don't think it tastes, like, bad like perfume. It just tastes, like... fancy and nice.
This is the exact shape of a bottle I would put a ship in. Like it's a good
That's
size bottle.
Like, yeah, and
like it's kind of like
the bottle looks fancy too.
A little bit shorter than most wine bottles.
Yeah, it's like weirdly short.
I'm a little wine bottle short.
It's like 5'7".
That was bad.
I'm 5'7". I guess it's not short, but
yeah, I'm 5'5", so it's 5'5".
Are you 5'5"?
Yeah.
You know what's weird? I never thought about how tall you are.
Really? Because we had a discussion one time where I asked you in front of the pod, Megan. I was like, I was like staring up at you guys. I was like, how tall are y'all?
Yeah, Meg and I are weirdly like the same exact height. And I just don't think about, like, I always think she's taller than me and she's not. I always think you're the same height as me.
I just have a big personality. Big personality,
you're tall
short stature.
at heart.
Yes, exactly. I'm like one of those little dogs that like barks at the big ones, you know?
That's probably accurate.
Yeah. But, okay, so you put on here Margot Robbie Wuthering Heights adaptation.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mostly put it on here for you because I felt like you would have something to say about it. But
so it was
have
on
you heard
here.
About it?
Yes, it was on here like 6 months ago.
Well,
and then we kept forgetting to talk about it.
It was, but it's been kind of it's reemerged, I guess, because there's been set photos coming out. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No.
Yeah, there's set photos of Margot Robbie. So I'm going to show you. So this Wuthering Heights adaptation, for those who don't know, it's based on the 1847 novel by Emily Bronte, and it's an adaptation by Emerald Fennell,
who did Saltburn, and what's that feminist one?
Oh, Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
And who apparently Jamie's going to be in. I don't know.
I think it's Jamie. It's one of the characters in Adolescence.
It's the detective.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. It's one of the kids. It's definitely one of the child actors.
Well, I hope so. Great actor. But then I feel like uncomfortable. Like I feel like he's so Jamie that I like would be uncomfortable seeing him in something else.
I'm excited. He reminds me of another young British actor from the early 2000s that I can't remember his name.
I swear I've seen this kid before, and then I looked him up, and he's like not in anything. I don't like that.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry.
I'll find it. You keep talking. I'll find it.
Well, I want to show you Margot Robbie set photo.
I actually wrote a whole essay in grad school about how Wuthering Heights is kind of like
be young Heathcliff.
Who?
You're right.
Yeah, young.
Good job.
Which also, okay, Heath, like the fact that they're casting like very, I'll just be honest, like white characters as Heathcliff pisses me off because Heathcliff is definitely someone who is either a person of color, like comes from like gypsy origins, or like they make that like pretty clear in the text, which is why like Kathy and Heathcliff it's like taboo that they're supposed to get together. But in all the adaptations, it's like, well, here's a white boy.
Didn't like Tom Hardy play him before?
Yes, and they're just like, here he's just dirty.
Yeah,
you know,
they don't get it. And
they don't get it.
Well, no, I mean seriously, like whoever, like every adaptation, like just doesn't get it. So okay. So here's Margot Robbie.
It reminds me of White Jesus, which like different spectrums, but you know what I mean? Where they're just like, no, he's white. It's like, well,
yeah,
let's fact check that.
And there was somebody else who they're also like miscasting in it, and I can't remember who, but it's like it's somebody who is supposed to be white, and they've like it would make a statement, but they're miscasting it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I don't really know.
And I also
Wuthering
don't
Heights
trust
enough.
Emerald Fennell with this.
So here's what I'm wondering. Do we know for sure if it's not a modern adaptation?
Well, what did the set photos look like?
Okay, so this is Margot Robbie.
Why does she look like that?
So let me just point out, too, her wedding dress is very modern.
But her makeup looks very...
That's true. But okay, first of all, Margot Robbie...
Miss Havisham.
So when that came... First of all, it's just, like, crazy because Margot Robbie is starring in it. She plays Kathy. Kathy's supposed to be, like, 18.
Well, so, yeah, I think there's, like, Kathy has different ages. And I think she dies in her mid-20s.
Well, somebody else playing her?
They have to... I mean, if they have a young Heathcliff, they have to have a young Kathy. But I don't know...
The young Heathcliff is...
13. It's Margot Robbie.
Next to Margot Robbie next to Jamie.
I don't know. Because she could also be playing a different Kathy. So there's Okay, so if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't read this book since grad school, but it's like Heathcliff and Kathy are the first couple. Then Kathy gets married to her neighbor. Then she has another daughter who I think is also named Kathy.
No, Margot Robbie's the main character in this.
But they're both kind of main characters because the first Kathy dies.
Oh, then I don't know. So I feel like the daughter is maybe the main character then, right? Or no, she's with Heathcliff.
No,
I'm saying the mom is with Heathcliff.
The mom is with Heathcliff, and then but they never actually like get together. She dies, which like spoiler, but it's Wuthering Heights, so like whatever. She dies, and then it's like Heathcliff's son and Kathy's daughter then start a love together.
Okay.
So it's like a second generation.
So I don't know exactly.
I think.
Let me just look at the cast list. Hold on. Let me just figure this out before we just start like spouting nonsense. Not nonsense, but okay. All right, let's see this cast. Okay, so she plays Catherine Earnshaw.
Okay,
she's the mom.
Who's the main,
Charlotte Mellington plays young Catherine. Jacob Elordi is Heathcliff, and Owen Cooper, who is Jamie, is young Heathcliff. So I don't know.
Yeah, so then they have... Yeah, so then Kathy has a daughter. So Catherine Earnshaw, which is the first Kathy, has a daughter called Kathy Linton.
Right.
And then, she dies while giving birth to this other Kathy.
And then Shazad Latif, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is he's Pakistani, and he plays Edgar Linton,
who I believe, you know what, I'm not even act like I'm an authority on this. Again, I haven't read it in like 8 years.
But I have heard a lot of criticism that like
that's weird
casting. So it's just like because the context is that like the commentary that they're making in the book, just like now it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't. And I'm curious if the casting is more just like Emerald Fennell being like, oh my god, I can cast Margot Robbie. Right. I'm gonna do it.
And she's friends with her for sure because I think it was an executive producer on Saltburn. So I think they're friends.
She was.
And also Alison Oliver is in it, and she was in Saltburn, I believe.
One thing I will say is I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on Bridgerton, but I love that Bridgerton has really brought like these period piece things to light where like before it'd be like, oh, I have to go to BBC or Stars to get my period piece fix. And I'm like, okay, now Emerald Fennell's doing a Wuthering Heights. Dolly Alderton is doing a Pride and Prejudice. Like, let's just keep it going.
Let's keep it going, but like let's make sure it's good because and I can't really speak on this, but I just think like a lot of people are kind of upset about the casting of like Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. It just seems
they are not near like, and again like
they don't seem I don't see the two of them together for some reason. Like I just don't see that working.
Yeah. And they're just like nowhere near the same age, and it's like Catherine and Heathcliff grew up together. Like they are like
they just I already can see. I just don't feel like they'll have chemistry. I just feel like it. But also so people are really criticizing since the set photos came out of like her in a wedding dress. First of all, that's just like that's why I asked like is it a modern adaptation?
Because it's not accurate. She wouldn't be
inaccurate. She wouldn't be wearing a white wedding dress.
That didn't happen until Queen Victoria.
Right. So it's just like there's a lot of questions I have, and that's why maybe it's not taking place when it's supposed to.
But I think it's one of those things I could see Emerald Fennell doing a thing where it is taking place in the time that it was set in, but then it's like, oh, we're putting in these modern things. You know how like sometimes like, you know, these
Marie Antoinette or
or like Persuasion. Which if we had this podcast when the Dakota Johnson Persuasion came out, someone asked me if I liked it and I talked to them about for 30 minutes straight. Like they asked me no other questions.
The crazy thing is I actually think we have talked about it on the podcast.
Probably. I have a lot of thoughts on it.
I know I've heard you talk about it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'll still be watching.
I will too. I actually will too. I thought it was interesting. We've had it on the docket for a while, and now that the set photos came out, I was like, I feel like I need to talk about this with Alexa. So
yeah, it was one of those things. It was like I think we had it under our upcoming joys section. I don't think, but then we
don't know if it's an upcoming joy though.
Yeah,
it could be a
upcoming sorrow,
disappointment,
upcoming woe. To bring Severance into the fold. But speaking of things we've seen, which is the whole podcast, movie assignments.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys listened to 2 episodes ago, what we do is every now and then we give each other assignments of movies to watch. Sometimes they're classics, sometimes they're new, and then we give our reviews on them.
Yeah, so I assigned you Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Yes.
Which I don't know why I did. It was actually a really last minute decision because I'm never prepared for a movie assignment. So I think I just said something and blurted it out because I loved that movie. I thought it was so good.
It was good.
So I assigned it to you, and then you assigned me Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Which, surprisingly, I had never seen.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I had seen it. You know what I mean?
So, okay, which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about Sunset Boulevard.
Okay, because so you were over here the other day, and I was kind of like, don't tell me too much, because we'll talk about it on the podcast, but I'm just curious. And you gave, like, a sideways thumb, and you said you compared it to, like, it's kind of like when we watched The Ring together, where you're like, it's hard watching a classic after a lot of stuff has, like, done it. Yeah. I was like, that's true. Like, Sunset Boulevard does
been inspired by it,
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Sunset Boulevard has inspired a lot, or, like, has been pulled into a lot, I think. But then when I thought about it, I was like, I'm curious, like, I couldn't think of actually a single specific thing.
No, but I've heard it so, like, quoted and just referenced that I just felt like I couldn't really take it seriously almost. Okay. Because I'm just like, I guess, like, I'm always, oh my gosh, why did I type that in? I am always, like, not that I was, like, not taking it seriously, but I just was kind of, like, underwhelmed by it, I guess. But not underwhelmed, like, obviously it was a great movie, but I just wasn't. I'm curious, like, what made you be like, Molly, you have to watch this? Other than the obvious that it's, like, a classic.
I think it's, like, a classic that a lot of things reference. And I just thought you would enjoy it because, like, especially after we watched The Artist. Yeah. And you were like, oh, I love that. And I was like, if you're going to love that.
I know. It's something I should have seen. And maybe at one point I have seen it as, like, a younger person. I just don't remember. But
I just think it's a movie that I think it was filmed in, like, the late 40s, early 50s. I think, or 50s. I think it was 50s.
It's from,
it's because it's black and white.
1950.
Yeah.
So it was filmed in the 40s.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things where, like, you're watching it, and sometimes you watch those older films and you're like, yeah, this feels like an older film. But a lot of, like, when I watch Sunset Boulevard, I'm like, this kind of feels like a modern film. To me.
Yeah, it did. Like, especially the way they talked and acted, I would say, like, the acting. And I thought, like, the acting was really good, but I was shocked to find out that it was, like, one of those movies where all 4 of the main Oscar categories, or I guess all 5, like, so it was Best Picture was nominated. I don't think it won, but it was, like, nominated for Best Picture, and it was nominated for all 4 acting categories, which I was like, I guess. I especially, definitely, what's her name? Gloria Swanson.
Yeah.
And William Holden. I could see that for the 2 of them, but I didn't really see it for the other 2. I was kind of like,
which other 2? The butler? The monkey.
No. So Nancy Olsen was the script writer.
Oh yes,
script reader.
So pretty.
Yeah, she was so pretty, but I was kind of like, I guess her acting was good. She just didn't really stand out to me.
But also, like, it's 1950, so the Oscars had only been around for, like, what, 15 plus years or whatever, like, so I don't know, like,
yeah. And then I think the Butler ranking was the other one.
But it doesn't surprise me, like, for Best Picture, where I'm just like, if this movie came out today, I'm like, it would probably be nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Like, don't get me wrong, I did think it was good. I did also laugh. I think I was telling you this, but so the actress Gloria Swanson, who played the main, Norma Desmond. I realized, I was, like, watching it, I was like, she sounds so familiar, and I realized, like, I've watched these sketches so many times because I think they're so funny, but on SNL, they used to do Vincent Price, like, Bill Hader would play Vincent Price, and he would have, like, parties, and all these, like, Hollywood stars would come in, and, like, Kristen Wiig played her, and she did the voice so well. Like, she would do a really good imitation of her that I, like, was hearing I couldn't take it seriously when I was watching the movie. And that was some of it, too, where I was like, I was just thinking of Kristen Stewart's imitation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kristen Wiig, not Kristen Stewart.
Oh, yeah. Kristen Wiig, I feel like, could do an impression of her in... Actually, no. I don't know.
No, it was Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, sorry, I meant Kristen Stewart. Whatever.
Anyway.
Flip it and reverse it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I love that movie because also I rewatched it because I rented it from the library and then I gave you the copy.
Which I was a little nervous at first. That DVD menu was crunchy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the quality was crunchy.
Oh,
but then the movie started and it was better.
Quality. Yeah. But I just rewatching, I was excited for you to watch it because I think it has, like, the writing in it is so good.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I think is interesting, and again, spoiler, but also it came out in 1950, so whatever, is William Holden's character is dead in the first scene.
Right.
But as you're watching it,
was kind of giving Great Gatsby, the pool.
Yeah. But as you're watching, I feel like you forget that he dies, and then he does die, and you're like, oh, fuck, that's right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so interesting.
And you wouldn't expect, like, how, I guess, he was going to die. But
I think and also, like, the lines where it's like, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Or, I love when he's talking about the monkey, and he's just like, and that chimp, like, blah, blah, blah. Or I love her line, I think I texted you, it's like, we didn't need dialogue, we had faces.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
I realized watching it that I really want to be a professional script reader.
Yeah, that would
how
be.
Do you get that job?
But see, and that's why I find like I've been like buying scripts recently because I think it's interesting to read a script and then watch the movie and see how they got from here to there.
Yeah.
Like the Succession script was wild because so much is like what do you call it? Like improv. But if you read the script for Casablanca and like I don't know, have you seen Casablanca? I can't remember.
Maybe a long time ago.
There's like the first scene where it shows like a globe is spinning and it has like a voiceover talking about something. And it's literally like in the script, like it's like show a voice spinning with a voiceover of whatever.
And that would be so hard because like imagine reading a script and having to like imagine that.
Yeah. Because the thing is like, I think writing is like 60% of the thing, but it's like hard to picture
something
a movie.
Hard to translate. Yeah. And so many scripts are probably like are obviously not picked up because it's like they just can't, they don't see it, you know, like they're just like, I don't see it. But it's like, with the right, with the right vision, they could have. I would love to be a script. I would find so much potential.
Yes, exactly. Did I ever tell you? I don't know if this is an appropriate story or not, but I'm going to tell it anyways. When I was in grad school, I took a script writing class, and there was this guy in there, and the whole time, like, I don't know, like he just didn't talk. Like it was maybe 7 of us in the class. He didn't speak at all. He was kind of interesting. Like he always had like a briefcase, like whatever. Like he kind of looked like the guy from Legally Blonde who directed Longlegs.
Oh, Oz Perkins.
Yeah, Oz Perkins, like how he looks in that, but like he didn't talk. And so finally, like we were all writing scripts and his script came along. It was kind of like a interesting Groundhog Day, but like just heavy, like aggressive sex, like the whole script. And so we're just kind of like reading it out loud.
Quiet ones.
Yes, and we're just kind of like discussing it. But again, like he's not talking, and it's just
oh my God,
like talking about like this person like getting railed or like being like pound. And I was just like 22 years old, and I was just like, whoa.
I love that he was like, because you would assume that if he's quiet, he's like shy. So he'd be like afraid. But if he was just sitting there like, yeah, this is my script.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel?
He was sitting here like, nobody can see my face. And he was just sitting
what
here
if
like.
he was making full eye contact with you? Like,
no, he doesn't
make. So scared.
He was just staring at the wall.
I think I have some thoughts about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a fine script overall. It was just like I was like, whoa, like did not know that's what was going on over there. Interesting.
But see, like you have to see the vision, you know?
Yeah. But I think I would love to be I would love to work in like film in general.
Imagine being a script reader for A24. Like that's where I would love to do that because they just get such interesting
Also
movies.
Like watching movies about like the like silent film era, like going into the talkies, etc. Like imagine being in that industry when all that was happening, you know, like that is crazy. Like I was reading this book called Girls in the Picture. It's really good. It's a novel. Like I read this years ago. I forget who it's by, but it's about like these people they were like, yeah, I went out to California and I starred in a bunch of silent movies because like you just could.
Well, I think it's funny because like I actually think the film industry is pretty boring now compared to what it was like at the time. And I'm not saying, obviously I'm glad that we're like addressing things that needed to be addressed. Yeah. And it was like still there's a lot going on that's, you know, a lot of like dark things that aren't good. But I feel like at that time it was so much crazier. Yeah. And so much, I mean, the whole casting couch thing, but also just like the parties were crazy. Yeah. There's a show on Netflix. It's a Ryan Murphy show. It's called Hollywood. If you've never watched it.
No.
I recommend it. It's Ryan Murphy. Yeah. I'll start out by saying that, but it is actually good and it focuses on that era. Yeah. Interesting. And it's just like those parties were so wild.
Oh, I bet they were. Everyone was doing coke back then. They were like, yeah, we just get this at the corner store.
But it was just like in weird sex. Like it was just like oh, and also, did you ever see this is kind of unrelated, but what's the one? Babylon with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie.
No, I wanted to see that.
Okay, it got such bad reviews when it came out, and it was such a like sleeper at the movies, but like it's actually so good. Like I remember when I watched it. I actually remember the day that I saw it. I saw it with my mom, and it was like right before we were about to go to DC for New Year's Eve. And the movie was so good, and it got me so hype that I was like hyped for like going to New Year's. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever like watch something and you're just like excited to go out after that? Like I was like it's such a hype movie. You should watch it.
Interesting. Okay.
Highly recommend. It got bad reviews, but don't listen to the reviews. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my thoughts on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. Did you notice? So I think when I gave it to you, I was like, pay attention to the card scene. Like when they're playing cards, who's in it? Buster Keaton was in that scene.
Can I tell you something? I don't actually know what Buster Keaton looks like.
He's usually the guy in silent films that you see. He almost has like a Hitler mustache, like before Hitler really trademarked that. And
I thought Charlie Chaplin had that mustache.
Oh, wait. Am I getting them mixed up?
I think so.
Let's see.
I mean, he could have one
Oh,
too.
yeah, you're right. Charlie Chaplin did have that mustache, but Buster Keaton has, like, the big eyes. Like, he was like, in the silent film era. And the thing is, it's all about the eyes. Like, even when you see, like, Norma Desmond's character, which is real pictures, I think, of Gloria Swanson.
Her eyes are kind of scary, actually. I've never seen what he looks like.
Wow. He plays Buster Keaton.
I could see it.
Yeah, I could see that. That's crazy.
I actually saw a thing that, like, and you went to the bathroom during this scene, so you wouldn't know, but there's, in Mickey 17, I will say, like, even though, however you felt about the movie, like, Robert Pattinson's, like, physical comedy in that movie was really funny. And you went to the bathroom during the scene, so you didn't see it. But, like, there's, like, a scene where he, like, chokes and he starts, like... sorry. He, like, is, like, falling backwards. And it's, like, such, like... People were saying it's such, like, Buster Keaton-esque comedy. Like, it's just, like, very good, like, physical comedy. And he's just, like, literally, like, flipping over and, like, falling over. And it's, like, so funny.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, after I was, like, I don't actually know what the man looks like.
So it's Buster Keaton, H.B. Warner, and Anna Q. Nielsen, which they're all, like, silent film stars. But I think it was, like, the first time, like, Buster Keaton's voice was on. Yeah, I wouldn't
have, like, known to recognize them.
I just think it's so interesting. I just, like, and I love when Hollywood makes things about Hollywood. Yeah. You know? I think it was good. But I'm glad you watched it. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I think it was good, as though I didn't recommend it.
I think it was good. Did you?
It was like, when I was in, like, studying film in school, it was like, sometimes they'd show these movies where I was just like, whatever. And sometimes they would show movies where I was just like, oh my God.
I never watched that one.
Like, okay, this is going to be a hot take and people will roll their eyes, but like Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Love the Bomb.
I never watched Dr. Strangelove either.
I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
It was, I don't think you would like it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's maybe up that time. But, so I watched Pinocchio.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm going to think of better things to recommend. Not that I think that movie's great, but I just don't really know why I recommended it to you. I think because we were talking about Guillermo del Toro, but I just thought it was a really good movie.
It's interesting because I think I've seen, like, the Disney Pinocchio once when I was, like, 5. You know, like, I haven't seen it in a long time. Like, I forgot they get swallowed by a whale.
It's a traumatizing story.
It really is. And I think, like, Guillermo del Toro, so I was, like, trying to research some history on it. I think Guillermo del Toro stayed true to, like, the original story, which I think came out in, like, the late 1800s. Yeah. If I remember correctly. I read the article, like, a week ago. Or not, like, over a week ago. And I think he stayed true to the story where it is kind of, like, it's very dark and it's, like...
Yeah, it's, like, about Italian fascism.
Yeah, and it really is. Like, they really get into Mussolini.
Oh, yeah. Oh, can you guess, like, what scene was really triggering for me?
No.
Maybe you don't really know this. Do you even know? I don't know. We don't talk about this a lot. But, like, the song scene where they're, like... Where they're singing. Where he's singing the song.
Oh,
Pinocchio.
Well, whenever he sings a song and he's like, Papa, it reminded me of Amelia Perez.
Well, no, I was going to say the song that he's singing about Mussolini and he gets really mad.
Oh, how does it go?
I'm not singing it. He's, like, saying the P word over and over again.
Oh, poop.
Yeah.
That's right. She doesn't like that.
I don't really know that I don't like that word.
No, I do. Remember earlier I was telling, I avoid it a lot.
Actually, okay, I was going to say, you've never said it in front of me.
When we were at the dog festival this weekend, I made very clear I did not say that those were poop baggies for dogs. I was like, like for picking up when your dog goes or something.
I just realized you must, like, care about me so much that you literally, I don't think I've ever heard you say it.
Yeah, I really talk around it a lot.
Wow. No one else cares about me like that. Like everybody else says
Matthew's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah. He does try to avoid it, but like he sometimes messes up and everybody else just drops it like in, and it's really bothering to me. But yeah, that song was really triggering to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I could get
Other than that.
The thing is, I think it was a beautiful film. The thing about the claymation, though, that sometimes pisses me off is like when their words aren't really matching like the animation as well. I just think like sometimes that annoys me because it almost is like when you're watching like a dubbed foreign language thing. But overall, also though, like some of the animation, I was watching this concurrently. I was watching It Ends With Us. Sorry, no, The Last of Us. And Pinocchio at the same time, and Pinocchio looks like
the same time.
Well, not like I was watching like around the same time.
Got it.
Pinocchio really does look like one of those little fungi zombies.
Yeah, he does. You're right. I just thought so. It just has like such a deep like emotional message. Again, that I never saw that with any other. They remade Pinocchio. It was literally almost, I think it was the same year that this came out. They remade Pinocchio, like Disney remade it, which I'm gonna get into that. But anyway,
yeah, we have a lot to say. Yeah.
But Disney remade Pinocchio, and it has like Tom Hanks plays Geppetto, and it's garbage.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
it's garbage, and nothing really.
I'm picturing like Tom Hanks as Geppetto, but as what's his face from the Elvis movie.
Yeah, it's just like soulless. It's just bad. But anyway, none of the Pinocchios really touch a lot on like the topics of just like parenthood and like, because you know, obviously Geppetto is his dad, and so it's like, and but Ewan McGregor plays Jiminy Cricket.
He does. I literally was like, I know that voice.
Oh yeah, and his monologue at the end, I was telling Alexa, like, it made me so emotional. I literally cried. Yeah,
I cried when he finds Jiminy Cricket dead on that windowsill. I was just like, oh my god. But I also, like, as we've talked about in this, not to make this like a therapy podcast, but like I have a hard time with death. So then when he's just like having to watch everyone die, I don't remember how the like
it's really hard
Disney Pinocchio ends. I imagine
not like that. They're not deep like that, but I think it probably ends like happy.
Yeah.
But I think it was still like, it was bittersweet, but I think like is him talking about how like parents are just doing their best, and like I literally was like sobbing at the end.
One thing I will say about like the original, what's the name of the original boy who dies
in Pinocchio?
Yeah.
Oh, like his son?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Whatever his son is, what an annoying little boy. I'm just like, what a noob. Who's like, like, I'm like, why does he seem like the most innocent soul that's ever lived? And also, like, he cobbles him those clogs. I'm like, those look so uncomfortable.
I don't remember. I actually don't remember that.
I was just like, well, little boys are not like this. He's like a Powderpuff Girl. Like, what? Powerpuff, yeah, sorry. I was just like, what? And then I will say, like, Pinocchio, very annoying, but he has a lot of heart.
He has a lot of heart.
Yeah.
He's annoying because he's, like, new to life.
Yeah.
And I always found that kind of annoying, but because he's just like, but
he's just like, I'm wooden,
more
but alive.
I'll tell you, it was the most annoying thing ever in the like remake, like the Disney remake.
Oh, I'm sure.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But Tilda Swinton plays Death. Love that for her.
Yeah, like
I was like, that's a hot ass death.
I actually forgot about all this, and like, yeah, it was so. But it's part of my fear of whales and actually the whale scene was so crazy in that movie too.
So
that one
crazy.
Got me too. I wasn't crying, but I was just like, oh my god.
The thing is, I do think you could survive. Oh, like you would not.
A guy got swallowed by one recently, and he survived.
Oh my god, that did not cross my feed.
Yeah, he was doing like an interview on Good Morning America or whatever, but he got
from Jonah to Pinocchio to that guy.
Because what happens is he got spit back out probably almost immediately, but yeah, you can survive it.
Yeah, I think it's like the acid in the whale's stomach will eventually kill you, and also like starvation,
well, I would
drowning,
think, like suffocation too, right? Wouldn't you die from like not breathing?
I don't know, because I think like there's oxygen inside of a whale.
Can I say something? It's gonna sound really awful.
Go ahead.
I actually wouldn't want to survive that, because now you're thinking, and maybe he's not afraid of whales, but the way that I'm afraid of whales, I would be a different person after that happened.
Like, imagine trying to treat that trauma. You know, you're like 1 in 4 people in history. Yeah.
What do you talk about? Just like that darkness, like that moment of darkness.
Just like, I'm really afraid of moisture. Like,
really, the guy thought he was gonna die. So I guess that's like trauma.
Yeah.
alone.
I imagine you'd be like afraid of toothbrushes for like the bristles, you know?
Yeah.
Bristles.
But he thought he had died. So that would be alone. That alone is like really
Imagine
traumatic.
thinking you've died and like the afterlife is a whale's stomach.
Well, he just wasn't. He probably. Here's what I'm hoping. Well, no, he talked about what he thought, so never mind. I was gonna say I would hope I wasn't like thinking anything. I would hope I'd black out, and then just all of a sudden I'm like, what the like I'm like on a boat. Like, what happened?
Yeah, you're just whoa.
Anyway, that's Pinocchio.
I want to see like hot take. You know, like James and the Giant Peach,
but also scared me as a kid.
I wanted to be like William and the Big Whale. You know, where it's like they all live inside of this whale and they travel around the world. I
don't want that. I'm scared of whales. The peach itself scared me, so I don't... No, it wasn't the peach that scared me. It was all the insects. They scared me.
Interesting. Well, they were very Tim Burton-y, so that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really liked it. I love a good, like,
I'm glad I
children's movie not for children.
That's what the thing is. It's so beautiful. It was not for kids. It was just like a beautiful movie.
It really, like, again, the scene at the end really got me.
Me too.
All of them dying. That's so sad.
It is so sad. Wow.
I
might have to watch it again now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, thank you for recommending Sunset Boulevard to me. I did enjoy it. I thought it was an amazing movie.
Thank you for recommending Pinocchio. I meant to watch it like when it first came out. I remember I like hit play and started watching it, and then I don't know. I just like was like, I'm not in the mood like to watch this at the time. That was like a year or so ago.
Yeah, I get that.
And now I'm glad I did.
Aww.
But speaking of remakes, so I think we have a lot to say about this Disney controversy. If you haven't heard, Disney recently redid a live action Snow White.
And it's actually, I didn't even realize until like yesterday that it's called Disney's Snow White. It's not called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I didn't even realize.
No, because they got a lot of flack for the dwarf shit.
I know. So, but I didn't realize it.
Understandably.
Okay, but hold on. It wasn't called, like, there are dwarves in it still, so I don't know why it's not called
So they're
Snow
not.
White.
They're not. So what happened was, I wrote this down because I thought this was interesting.
I have a whole thing about it.
Okay.
But you can go into it if you want. But I do have, like, a whole thing.
Originally, it was going to be dwarves. And then I think it was Peter Dinklage. He, like, was like, why are they still doing this? Like, a bunch of people were in arms about it. So now the dwarves are cast as, in the script, they're calling them magical creatures. So they're not dwarves.
And it's crazy to me that is the case because they do look identical. Like, it's not like they look differently. They look like the dwarves. They're just CGI. But
originally, they were not CGI. They were, it was like a diverse cast of characters.
But I'm saying though, like, that they look like the dwarves. So, like, why make them look like that?
But that's like the problem, I think, of remaking a movie sometimes from 1937 where, like, the pivotal thing is maybe not, like, very PC today.
So I'm curious.
Like, you don't see anyone trying to make Gone with the Wind, you know?
I know. And I'm curious what your take is on all of this because I'm going to explain the timeline of these controversies. And I'm curious to hear what you think. I'm just going to, like, lay it out as it is.
Yep.
But basically, so I think this remake was first announced, like, 10 years ago.
Yep.
And
that's just me all the whole time. Yep.
Oh. And the thing is, so they keep, for anybody who is wondering, like me often, why they keep remaking these dumbass remakes, it's, I think, because, like, Disney is trying to hold on to the IP.
Yeah. Because
I've supposedly, I don't know if that's actually true, but I've heard that a lot. And it makes sense that they're afraid of losing the IP, so they keep remaking these movies, and they're just ass, all of them. I've never seen one. I remember seeing Cinderella. I think I can maybe say Cinderella is the best one, but I didn't even think it was that great.
Is that the Lily James one?
Yeah, it was fine. Like, it's not great. I liked the Little Mermaid one, but that was purely because of the cast. I think overall most people would disagree with me.
Oh, we saw that together, remember?
We did. And I think most people don't like it.
It was, I mean, the thing is, I don't think there's any Disney remake. Sorry, I'm hot, so I'm taking my sweatshirt off. Fine. There's no Disney remake that I'm like, I just always ask, I'm like, it's kind of like when we were talking about the Harry Potter thing, where it's just like, who is this for? Especially the Disney ones where it's like, I don't know, like, granted, I don't know a lot of kids, but I'm not like, there's not a lot of kids who are foaming at the mouth for a Snow White remake.
And I think that kids are going to see it. I think it's both nostalgia, which that doesn't draw me in, but I think a lot of it is nostalgia. Like, if people love The Lion King, they're for some reason excited to see a just soulless, just ugly remake, CGI remake. Like, it's just, I don't get it, but I think that is what's drawing. And also kids, which I think is strange because there's new things for kids. So I'm not sure.
What I was going to say is like, so Snow White, when I was a kid, obviously by this point, so it came out, 1937? By this point I was born in 1995. Do the math on that, like 60 plus years old.
Yeah.
And Snow White, I will say, I think I've watched it once, maybe twice.
Really?
It was not, I was like not that into it, but like, and
it was
I realized,
scary a little bit too.
Yeah, and it also just seemed boring to me as a kid.
So, yeah.
And I realized, I'm like, okay, the things that I liked were things that like were coming, like I liked Little Mermaid, which was very 80s. Then I liked Pocahontas, which was like 90s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure. And
where it's like, this feels more up to date.
And I think I was doing that too. Like, I was watching things that were coming out, but I also did love like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. And actually, I have a fun fact. I actually met the original Snow White, technically.
Oh, yeah.
Because, did I already tell you this?
Yeah, but I don't think you've told the listeners.
Oh, interesting.
I was actually thinking about it all, like the whole time I was reading about Snow White. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, because my great-grandma, when I was like 4 years old, I was a baby. My great-grandma was in a nursing home facility, and my parents and I were like visiting her, and one of the women that lived in the facility was the model for the Snow White animated like animation. So she looked like Snow White. That's like who they based Snow White off of for the Disney movie, I'm saying. Obviously. And my dad like randomly like went to her room. I guess she just like left the door open or something. Yeah. And he had me, and she like held me and was like really excited to meet me.
Oh,
and he said that she had like a big portrait on her wall of like her as a younger person, and he said
a bunch of dwarfs around her.
Yeah. She looked exactly like Snow White. It was crazy.
Interesting.
I thought this is like my fun fact, because it's like I met the OG Snow White.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think it's important also to like give some historical context onto like why Snow White is so significant to Disney. So Snow White was like basically Disney's first like big blockbuster. So the original movie cost about $1.5 million to make, which would be $34 million today, and it brought in $184 million, roughly $4 billion in the United States and Canada. But Walt Disney bought the land for Disney headquarters with a part of the profit. So even today, Disney leaders, they work in a building that has these huge statues of the 7 dwarves, and the Disney animation offices are nearby, and they're on Dopey Drive is like the name of the animation studio, like where they're located. So like it's kind of like a big deal for Disney, because it's like it's what really cemented Disney.
Which makes sense. And so when people are saying like, and a lot of people kind of are looking at this whole like controversy around the movie, and they're just like, what is even the big deal? Like the original Snow White was just like a lot of people don't care about it.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, I did. I loved it, but like I understand.
Yeah.
It's also the animation's a little creepy. Mm-hmm. Like the way she claps and moves is like a little weird.
Yeah, it's like it's made in 1937. Probably.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, this movie just came out, I think, like this past weekend.
Yeah.
But like before it came out, there was already so much controversy surrounding it. So like literally as soon as they cast Snow White, they cast Rachel Ziegler, who, if you don't know, she played Maria in West Side Story. She was also the lead in the Hunger Games prequel that came out I never saw it, but apparently
I didn't know she was in the prequel. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the character's name, but it's the snake one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's supremely talented. She is an amazing singer. She, to me, is like, she has a voice of like a Disney princess. Like she is like very, very well cast as like a Disney character, or as a Disney princess. Like I definitely agree with that. But like right off the bat, there was just like a bunch of controversy around the decision to cast a Latina actress.
Yeah.
Because Snow White is described as having skin as white as snow,
which makes her so beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
which is whatever. Yeah.
And so I guess in the movie, this new movie, the character is named Snow White because she survived a snowstorm at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And apparently that's an actual plot that is used in another version of Snow White. I'm not going to comment on that.
But do we need like a plot that like this is why she's named Snow? Like I actually until this all came out, I didn't know she was called Snow White because she was white. You know, I just was like, her name's Snow White.
Well, they say in the movie like skin as white as snow.
I wasn't really paying like I'm like child.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think we even need that. Interesting.
And I mean, to be fair, that like is how she's described in like the fairy tale.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like okay, like.
Yeah,
sorry. Sure, and then I guess like the movie, but so that's where they went with the movie, and apparently that is a plot of another story, another version.
Yeah.
So okay,
And people were online, they were calling her Snow Brown. They were calling her Snow Woke.
The racism and just the harassment that she has faced by just, like, losers who, again, like, why do you care that much about, like, this movie? Like, it's unreal. And, like, keep in mind, Rachel Zegler, I want to say, is, like, I don't even know how old she is. I want to say she's, like, 23, maybe.
Yeah.
And I could have that completely wrong. She might be older than that. But, no, she's 23. She is a very, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but she is a very new actress compared to, like, relatively new actor.
It's like when Halle Berry got cast in The Little Mermaid.
Halle Berry, yeah.
Is it Halle Berry?
Halle Berry. Hold on.
To clarify, it's not Halle Berry, but, like, the other one. Who she played the Little Mermaid.
Hold on, it's Halle Bailey. I was one thing is wrong and I couldn't remember what it was.
Typical me.
No. Because I got it wrong too. I was saying Halle Berry. Halle Bailey.
I just, like, hit myself in the face.
So she faced the same thing. It was
And it's crazy because it's just like, so what's interesting is I was reading this article about, like, you know, again, originally, like, they had the dwarves cast as, like, people with, like, different backgrounds or whatever. They also cast, like, a Latina actress in the main role. And then this was obviously, like, a pre-Trump, like, presidency thing. So obviously, like, they have been reeling back on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at Disney, which is why it's also, like, kind of weird for this to come out at this time when this was obviously, like, very much a DEI, like, this shows, like, people of different backgrounds in a movie that, like, they normally, like, historically would not be in. Yeah. And I think it's great, but, like, I feel like Disney has kind of, like, they put a bunch of money into it, and then they couldn't, like, they were like, well, so I don't think they promoted it very much.
Disney historically does this thing that a lot of people have noticed where, like, and they've done this with, like, Star Wars cast as well. Like, they'll cast, thank you. The plop. You know, they'll cast people and then not defend them when they get harassed for, you know, by like freaks who
it's the same thing with the Lord of the Rings on Amazon, where people were, like, very upset that there were people of color in it. And it's just like, we are not producing shows with just one race like, represented or background or whatever. Yeah. So, like, why does Snow White...
And I think it's interesting. So there's a girl that I went to college with who does a party. She runs a party business out of the DC area. And basically it's herself included. It's most of the people that are at this company are, like, persons of color, and they dress as Disney characters and they go to parties. And so it's like a party, princess party business, but they do, like, parades and stuff. And I think she's, like, made a pretty good, like, I don't know if it's her full living, but, like, it's pretty successful because they go to, like, birthday parties, and it's you know, she talks all the time about how, like, you know, representation matters, and it's important for, like, little girls to see themselves in Disney characters that they normally, like, wouldn't see. And so I see that side of it. And I don't know. It's interesting. Sometimes I think, like, I'm trying to think of a way to say this, but I also am about originality. Mm-hmm. And I just think, like, you know, what's wrong with also just, like, coming up with new stories?
That's what I was about to say. That's what, like, also made me mad about, like, this is kind of different, but, like, when Ghostbusters was, like, it's Ghostbusters, but women. It's like, why don't we create original stories for women? Why don't we create original blockbuster stories for people of color? Like, obviously, we could do it. We've done it before. Yeah. So why?
Like, I remember they were about to come out with, like, a female James Bond, and it was like... Why? Yeah. Why would we do that?
Just make something, like, for women. Just make something like that's for people of color that everyone enjoys, you know? Like,
and so I do see that argument to it as well. Yeah. And I think, so this is kind of where, like, the next controversy comes in, which is, like, Peter Dinklage was doing a podcast. And I think he probably was just, like, I didn't hear him. Like, I didn't hear what it sounded like. I think maybe it could have been taken out of context. Sometimes when you're talking on a podcast, imagine somebody transcribing things that we say. Like, I don't know, but he was basically talking about the Snow White remake and how it's, like, very backwards because they're focusing on diverse casting for Snow White. Meanwhile, the use of dwarves in the movie is, like, offensive.
Which it is. I was listening to, like, his take on that, and he was like, why are they showing them as, like, not lowlifes, but, like, they
live in a cave.
Yeah, basically idiots who live in a cave.
Yeah, and so he was kind of saying that, yet they focus so much on, like, casting a Latina a Latina actress as Snow White, and he was just like, it just seems a little, like, backwards or whatever.
So then I think Disney did a scramble, and then they were like, never mind, they're magical creatures and they're all CGI.
Well, so but before that, they responded very quickly to just Peter Dinklage. Like, they were just like, oh shit, we gotta change some things. So they said to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original film, they're taking a different approach and consulting with members of the dwarfism community. Okay, and then meanwhile, other actors with dwarfism called Peter Dinklage out and were just kind of like, please don't speak for us. Like, you are famous and you have all these roles and you're very successful, but like, now you're costing us roles. Yeah. And so it was just kind of this like back and forth, and they were kind of saying like, you do nothing for the dwarfism community because you know, he is very successful. He's good. You know what I mean? Like, he's set. But like, I think like a lot of other actors were kind of like, please don't speak for us.
Yes. I wish you had watched Hacks, because there's an episode, I think it's in season 1 or season 2, where it's like the main character she hires like quote unquote elves, and then her assistant's like, you can't do that, that's like really offensive, and she's like, well, if I don't, they don't have like the jobs. And it's like such an interesting like moral dilemma.
It is.
But also like, just like these problems, I'm thinking like, okay, why did they even touch remaking this movie? Because like, what I mean. Remaking like, movies from like
just messy.
Yes, all like remaking movies is always like, okay, yeah, we have to take a look at like you know, this current day point of view. But like Snow White, where it's like, yeah, like, she's beautiful because she's white and she has 7 dwarves who like wait on her, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough 2025. That's gonna be a hard nut to crack.
I think we're good. Like, I don't think there's anything offensive in Cinderella. Yeah. But Snow White might have just, and not because it was 1937, and I'm gonna get into that. I don't think it's because it was like that specific year, because it's like a wild story. Like, it's not how many other, like, that's not like it's like a thing of the time. Like, it's just like, it's just a weird fairy tale. Like, you know what I mean? So then, after all of that, there was footage from the movie set that showed, like, non-dwarf actors of various ethnicities playing the dwarves. Yeah. And I think it showed them in, like, a line. It was just, like, a really weird-looking photo. It was just, like, again, they were all, like, tall. Like, just normal size. And at first, Disney tried to say that those images were not depicting the actual film production. And then they were like, actually, yes, it was, sorry. They're stand-in actors substituting for the leads. And it just got a bunch of criticism because now it was seen as, like, overly politically correct. And it was just kind of like, you know, and then people were saying it was taking away opportunities from the dwarfism community. Yeah. By, like, casting just, like, you know, tall humans. I'm not sure what, like, like tall people.
5'7"
in these dwarf roles. And so it just was like, and I have to say, I kind of felt bad for Peter Dinklage because he caused, the fact that Disney responded to his like little statement on a podcast.
But he has a huge
He does, but I'm just
voice.
saying, he does, but it's a podcast, so I feel like he was maybe just kind of just shooting the shit and was just like talking, and now it just caused just all of this. Yeah. And once again, I don't mean I feel sorry for him, but I just think it's almost kind of comical that it's like just that statement caused all of this. Yeah. Caused Disney to like basically remake the movie.
Once again, who is this for?
I don't know. And like they based their
Nobody
decision
asked
on
for
him.
this.
So then the movie revealed that the 7 dwarves are all CGI characters that basically resemble the original movies, and they have voice actors, and like you said, they're now called magical creatures. Yeah. Okay. So that's that one. Then you have Rachel Zegler, and she kind of like, she's an interesting person. I don't know if you've ever seen her in interviews.
I've read her interviews, so I haven't seen.
I think, well, so she was at like a D23 expo for the movie. So I think it was like when they maybe like announced the movie or maybe showed a trailer. I'm not really sure. But she and Gal Gadot were both there, and this was maybe in 2022, I think. Yeah. So she made like a bunch of statements about the original 1937 film and how it was outdated. And she said, I'm gonna like do how she said it, but she said the original cartoon came out in 1937 and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yep. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. We take a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie. I don't know who this we is. She didn't cast anybody, but okay. And she said, Andrew Burnap, great dude, but it's not really about her love story at all. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. And it just was...
What a weird way to phrase that.
she was trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm going to.
And again, she's also, like you said, she's 23.
She's 23, and I'm going to preface it by saying I think this girl is incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Media training she does not have, though.
No, she said at one point, I think she said that Snow White scared her.
She said Snow White scared. She at this D23 Expo was a nightmare, like publicity or PR wise for her, because it was just like she just was saying things like, so she said Snow White. She's like, I didn't really like Snow White as a kid because it scared me. I don't know if she said she didn't like it, but she did say that it scared her, and it came off as very like anti Snow White, which like you wouldn't be here if it weren't for that movie. So you know what I mean? And then she also was later asked at the same event what it meant when she said she was bringing a modern edge to her character. And she said, I just mean it's no longer 1937. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about becoming I missed a thing there. But she basically said she's going to be dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I actually don't even know what to say.
And I don't condone all the backlash against her. She got absolutely dragged for like all of this. And again, she's
Disney
23,
doesn't protect them.
And Disney does not protect them. And she is a 23-year-old girl who is new to us. Pretty new to this. I mean, I think West Side Story came out in like 2021. So she's still, this is all coming at her like very fast.
Yeah.
Her becoming like a star. She's like leading movies, you know, and it's crazy. She didn't have a ton of media training, but like honestly, the comments actually pissed me off too. Mm-hmm. Like I remember seeing them and just being like, cause like, and I was saying, I've seen her in other interviews too, and I don't really love her personality. I'm going to be honest. She tries to be funny, and to me, like, I just don't, I don't like it. Like, I just don't really, I don't think her jokes land. And I don't really understand. And she did say, she came out later and said, like, you know, she wished that, like, she was sad people misinterpreted her words. Mm-hmm. And that her jokes maybe didn't land. And I'm like, yeah, they didn't. I'm like, you're not Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Just chill. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I've said this before. Like, I just think when you're kind of new, like, maybe just, like, I'm not saying you can't ever talk or whatever, but I just think, like, some people are just...
Well, it doesn't seem like she's been media trained.
Exactly. She's not been media trained. And so I think she was thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
But I'm just
because I think they started this production and then they were just like, we put in a bunch of money, so we have to keep
it
going.
Know. Yeah.
And then they were like, we don't actually give a fuck about it.
Yeah. And it was delayed as well, so there was just like a lot of weirdness with it. And but I do think like what she was saying, it's like, what's wrong with the 1937 story? And obviously there is some things wrong, I guess. But like, I don't really understand this whole, like, these Disney princesses need to be warriors. Yeah. I think, like, there's other types of feminism. And I think that's, like, what I'm always, like, against is, like, and first of all, there was already that angle of Snow White in the Kristen Stewart remake, because I remember that came out, and it was, like, also shit. Yeah. But when she played Snow White, that was, like, the angle they went with as well.
I think, like, and I don't know, is she a warrior in this one? Because it sounds like she's supposed to be, like, I don't know what the plot is.
I don't know if she's a warrior, but it's just, like, that thing of, like, she is not going to be saved by the man, she's going to be a leader. And I think she does join some kind of, like, troop or something, and she ends up, like, trying to defeat, I don't know. It's, like, it's a whole thing.
I just think, like, again, like, why are we doing remakes? Like, when they did Frozen, I was like, this is perfect, because I'd like, like,
let's do originals.
It's centered around, like, sisterly love. It's not like, oh, I need to be saved by a man or whatever. She saves herself. Like, sure, there is, like, romance, but it's not, like, the main thing, which I do think is important. I don't think we need to center Disney princesses' stories around, like, the romance with a guy, but I also, again, it's a 1937 film with so many problems in it. It's just like, let's just leave it in the past. Like, we just don't need it again.
And you're right. And like, and that's what she was saying, I guess. And so she was saying, like, it's outdated. And that was what she was saying. But I guess, like, my argument is, like, then why are we making it? That's true.
And you know what? When something's outdated, just get rid of it. Or just leave it. Like,
just
whatever.
leave it. It's in the archives or whatever. But I do think...
Do you remember the Disney archives, like, when they would do, like, the, before, like, movies, they would do, like, a little trailer, and they'd be like, the Disney Vault!
Yeah, the Disney Vault.
And you're just like, wow, I guess I'll never see...
And now it's all... They'd be like, no, I think they're probably all there now.
They are now, but they used to. They used to be like, it's just coming out of the Disney Vault for the next 3 months, and you'd be like, oh, shit.
You know what's crazy is, remember before Disney Plus how hard it was to get a hold of Disney movies?
It was crazy.
I know. Like, I remember when Disney Plus came out, because, okay, this is where we might be, I think, like, maybe differing a little bit, because I really do love, like, old Disney princess movies. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I do too. I love them.
I personally don't see anything wrong with, like, a romance being the center of a story. I think that's beautiful. I don't think it doesn't have to be that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can have things like Brave and Frozen and Mulan and whatever. Like, we have all that. So I also think it's fine to have a movie centered around romance. Like, that's fine. Like, some people like that. And so I'm always, like, really against when people think their idea of feminism is the right idea. And, like, feminism is just, like, about what you want it to be.
Feminism is a spectrum. But I think, like, the issue is, before we had all of these, like, kind of new wave Disney princesses, it was all of them were centered around romance and love. And, like, she found her happy ending with a guy, you know?
Yeah, and that's true. And I think, like, some Disney princesses are more passive than others, so, like, Snow White or Sleeping Beauty. But, like, also I think there's something fine with, like, the way that she, you know, defeated whoever is by being a good person. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be about them fighting. Like, I just think that's, like, there's just something, like, so overly...
And I will say,
that.
like,
I don't know.
It reminds me of, I was listening to an interview recently with Rebecca Yarros, who wrote Fourth Wing, and she was talking about, she was like, I didn't want to write a feminist character, or female character, who's immediately a badass. She was like, and that's how they are. Like, look at Katniss. Like, look at, like, you know, like, where it's just like, oh, they're just like, yeah, I know how to kill people, I know how to be a warrior. She's like, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm soft, and I learn how to fight in different ways.
And I always said that with, like, Game of Thrones, because, like, that was always kind of, like, people hated on Sansa, but, like, loved Arya. And, you know, they were just so different, but they, to me, were still strong in their own ways. Like, Sansa had to endure things that I don't think Arya would have been able to endure, the way that, like, obviously Sansa wouldn't have been able to endure things that Arya did. So, like, and I think, like, that's what that kind of perfectly, like, explains, like, how I feel about feminism, I guess, is just, like, it doesn't have to be one thing. And so I get really annoyed when it's, like, people make such a huge deal out of, like, she's not gonna be this because she's gonna be a fighter and a warrior, and I'm like, well, why? Like, that's not the story of Snow White. And again, back to, like, come up with a different story then.
And I think what makes me mad about that sometimes is, like, people are like, oh, she, like, it's better because she's a fighter and a warrior, and I'm like, okay, those are kind of, like, traditionally, like, male traits, you know? Why can't we have something where it's like, yeah, she's very soft and very feminine, and, like, she doesn't have to fucking fight people.
That's what I'm saying.
And she's still just as valuable. But instead we have to make, like, these more, like, masculine values. I'm not saying, like, again, there's a whole thing of, like, fighting doesn't have to be just for men and women, like, whatever. But traditionally how we view it is, like, you know, this is, like, very masculine, this is very feminine. It's like, oh, now the princesses are doing more masculine things, so it's better. They're more valued.
By the way,
they're doing more valuable things. And I'm here to say there is value in taking care of people, like being a homemaker.
Exactly.
But people will never see it that way.
No, and in this remake, she teaches the dwarves how to clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
And I actually I was like, you know, it's not like they didn't do shit. They did work.
Yeah.
They were working while she was clean. Like, because she was living there for free.
Yeah. Free rent. That's the real...
So, yeah. Clean the house.
That's
I don't know.
Disney dream.
Contribute.
Yeah.
Whatever. I just that's just kind of how I feel when I hear things like that. And also, by the way, there is a guy in this remake, and I mean, it's Hollywood, baby. I don't know if he got cut out, but I think he is, like, in it. And he teaches her, I think. I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure there is, like, maybe a romance between them. It's not the center of the story. That's true. But it's still there, so what was the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all, like, what is the point of any of it?
What
like,
is the point?
It's inherently, like, flawed film in certain aspects for, again, remaking it in 2025.
And they could have just not had a romance at all. They could have not added a guy, but they did that for a reason because they know that's what people want to see. So I'm just saying, like, it's all kind of bullshit.
And I think it came out with, like, obviously flopped at the theaters because what's interesting is there's also kind of, like, a suspected rift between Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler because Gal Gadot is very vocally pro-Israel. Mm-hmm. Rachel Zegler is very... I think
she's supportive of Palestine.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and Gal Gadot has gotten like a lot of, like, I actually was surprised to see her in this role just based on like how much she's gotten.
A lot of people were because of that, but also because she's like actually a terrible actor.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it because I've seen her in like maybe 2 things and both things were just not like, I guess like, I never saw Superwoman, but she is Superwoman, and I don't think she
Wonder Woman.
I'm sorry, Wonder Woman. I knew I was saying something wrong, but Wonder Woman is, like, I don't think it really stood out as much because it's, like, an action movie, and she was a superhero. Did it stand out?
No, I used to have a blog. I wrote this whole, like, scathing thing where I was just like, why are we calling this movie feminist? It's not feminist because the main character is, sure, again, a woman who can fight, but they act like she's so stupid, and her whole, like, crux of changing things or like, you know, the pivotal point in the story is because to save a guy, you know?
Yeah, and the whole like, and her, I did see her in Death on the Nile. Her acting was awful. Enough champagne to fill a Nile. Like, she's so bad. I didn't realize it until like I saw a compilation of like scenes of her acting, and it's like, I hate to say this, but it's like clearly she's been cast in things because she's beautiful. Like there's just no other like.
Oh, absolutely.
Like she's really not good, and so it's crazy for her to be cast in like this role because it's just like it doesn't even like fit her.
Yeah.
And so all of the reviews that have come out, it's gotten bad reviews, but most people are saying like that Rachel Zegler is at least like the saving grace of the movie. Like her energy is just like like her obviously like I said, she's very talented. Mm-hmm. Don't like her personality, but I think she is incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And I think she's kind of saved the movie, whereas like everyone's just like trashing Gal Gadot. Yeah. But yes, they have very obviously differing political opinion or political views, and so that kind of caused a lot of controversy as well.
Yeah. So there was like no promo
for
this film.
There was no promo. They didn't do like a
because Disney doesn't care about this film anymore. They were just like put it out.
Well, and they were kind of. They didn't do any red carpet press at the LA premiere. Yeah. So they didn't do any interviews, which obviously, and then the Europe premiere, Rachel Zegler went to, but Gal Gadot skipped.
Yeah. So, and it's, like they're not at the same promoting, like, things. I think there was, like, maybe 1 or 2 things they were at together promoting. But it's just, like, again, there wasn't a lot of promotion in general. Like, I knew they were making this remake. I heard about it a while ago, and then when it was like, oh, it came out on Friday, I was like, that's crazy. I've seen nothing for a Disney film. I've seen nothing about it. I think so. It only made $43 million domestically for its opening weekend, which is not great.
Not great for Disney.
Yeah,
that's like a really bad for Disney. So they're like, it's not their. I don't know. It's just, it sucks because I feel bad for Rachel Zegler. And she does get, I mean, I had forgotten, she also, like, after the election, she posted stuff about, she basically said, like, may Trump fans and Trump supporters and Trump himself, like, never know peace. Yeah. And she posted that on her Instagram, and it, obviously, it got a lot of backlash, and I think Disney, I assume Disney or maybe her team told her to take it down or apologize, and so she had to issue a public apology, which, like, I imagine for her, I'm just like, she probably didn't mean the apology. I feel like she's just kind of like, sweat, like, she has to do these things, and I'm just like, I just feel like things are just happening for her so quickly, and she just isn't ready, you know what I mean? Like, just give her some training, but maybe just, like, but also, I hope she has, like, some people around her that are just kind of with her during this time. I can't imagine like going through all this at 23.
She seems like the type where like this all came out and this all happened and she's just kind of like chugging forward. Like she's just and on to the next.
And there's good things for her too. Like she has a lot of fans. So but I think I lost what I was gonna say. But it's just interesting. I'm sure, you know.
I'm like, should I watch it? I kind of don't want to.
When it comes out, I'm kind of almost wondering if I should. I don't want to at all, but I'm just more curious.
But y'all know me. Like, I'll watch something bad for the sake of
But I barely see these Disney remakes. I
haven't seen any of them, I don't think.
I saw Cinderella and I saw...
Oh, The Little Mermaid.
And I saw The Little Mermaid. And I saw not The Lion King. I did not see The Lion King. I saw Jungle Book.
I didn't even know they remade Jungle Book. I saw Beauty and the Beast.
I didn't see that one.
That was like a long time ago.
I was like very anti that one.
It
wasn't good.
Like, none of them have been good. Like, I've never heard anyone be like, this Disney live action remake slaps. Everyone's like, it was bad.
And the thing is, again, like, I don't blame, like, imagine being cast, again, like, you're new to the scene, you're being cast as Snow White, the first ever Disney princess. Like, that would, obviously you would say yes. Like, I don't blame her for doing that. But I just, like, it's just the way that, like, between everything, it's just, like, really crazy.
It's too much. I don't know. God bless her.
God bless her. And we'll see. I don't know if this movie is going anywhere, but
yeah, we'll see what happens. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah. But stay tuned. Like, next week, we're gonna have a really fun episode. We're gonna talk a little bit more about Severance, some other fun topics, and as always, please like, rate, review, subscribe, all of them or any of them, and then you can also follow us at Poppin In Podcast. Don't know why I said it like that. On Instagram, where you can see our out of context posts or respond to our question of the week. But until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.